Alright guys, welcome back to our final video. We are going to be going over all like 89 of the multicolor cards today. So this video is going to be about 3 times longer than any of the color specific videos because they have more text, they're harder to evaluate, and there's almost 3 times as many of them. So we're going to go ahead and just jump right in. Yanks is with us again as always. Let's try to speed through them so this is not a 6-hour video.
Sounds good.
Aether Helix is our first card. It is a 5-mana sorcery. Return permanent to its owner's hand. Return target permanent card from your graveyard to your hand. Great. So it's a bounce card that doesn't necessarily lose you card advantage. Bit expensive. It's sorcery speed. Not a fan of those things.
Yeah, we've played 5 mana, put something on top of your owner's library, which kind of is the same idea for not having card advantage. Here you get at least a little selection onto what cards you want, so you might get a little more value. But yeah, and it's fine. Sorcery speed is disappointing.
Now I will say that there is a fair amount of ramp in the format for these 2 colors, so the mana cost is a little less daunting than it typically might be. But what do you think rating-wise?
I think this is probably like a 2-5, but I'd have it, if I had a lot of early ramp, it would go up to a 3.
Okay, I put it at a 2-5 myself. I like that it does a little bit of tempo. Typically, I'm not excited about getting 1 card back out of my graveyard, because again, it's kind of a net neutral for an expensive cost, but you're also tempoing out your opponent a little bit, albeit you don't have the option to do it at instant, but that's all right. 2-5, excellent. We have a Witherbloom card. Take it away.
Beledros Witherbloom, 5 black-green, 4/4 Elder Dragon Legend. There's one of these for each school, the founders of the schools. This one is a 4/4 flyer. At the beginning of each upkeep, you create a 1/1 black and green pest creature token with when this creature dies, you gain a life. And you can pay 10 life to untap all lands you control. Activate only once each turn.
Of each upkeep, you create a pest. That seems nuts.
Yeah, we've seen that with we had one card in Rivals of Ixalan that created, and Verdant Force does it. So we've seen it before.
And big snakes that make 3/3s.
And and most recently Coma.
Tad bit expensive, but I mean, hey, what do you expect for a 4/4 flyer that makes infinite bodies for you if left undealt with? And honestly, the 1/1 bodies are a little less impactful than like Coma's 3/3s, but it itself is evasive, can't be chumped. And then they drain as well, which is really nice, which the saplings don't do, although they get pumped after a little while, I suppose. But I think that this is on par with that.
Yeah, I mean, this card, in my mind, is way worse than Coma, but it's easier to cast.
Oh, it's way worse to cast than Coma, because Coma protects itself with its own little tutors. Yeah,
makes better dudes, and they help protect it.
Yeah.
But no, this card is good. I mean, you do have the risk of you play a 7-mana spell that just can die right away, and you have no value out of it. But I mean, that's the case with a lot of large creatures.
Yeah,
I like this card.
So I will mention that there is a ton of even though Wandrix is the ramp colors, there was a lot of self-contained green cards that you could ramp with. So definitely, look out for those kinds of cards when playing this.
Yeah, now, absolutely.
This is a bit of a hard card to evaluate only because, so if left undealt with, it will just instantly win you the game, which is like kind of the marker for our like 5. But unlike a lot of 5s, this leaves no lasting impact if dealt with right away. So it's kind of in the middle there.
Yeah, and at only 4 toughness, we've already seen a 3-mana red burn spell that'll kill this.
Yes.
So again, very powerful, but I don't have it at that range. I have it at a 4.
Okay, I put a little higher because it has the power to end a game like any bomb, but like I said, just is a little less impactful in the beginning. So if you pass that initial turn, then we're feeling pretty good about it.
Yeah. Yeah, I don't, we didn't really talk about it, but I don't consider that pay 10 life on tap all lands really relevant.
Oh, I didn't even, we read it and then it got erased from my mind.
By the time you play your 7-drop, you probably don't have much left in hand to play with untapping lands anyway.
Oh, oops, go back. Biomathematician. It is a 2/2 for 3. When it enters the battlefield, create a 0 fractal creature, put a +1/+1 counter on it for each fractal you control. So this is doing all of the things that Quandrix wants to do. It's creating tokens, it's counting, and we talked about that in like the green bluish areas, that a lot of the Quandrix cards actually force you to count things, and these things are all different, so there's no one major theme. So this time you're counting your other fractal tokens. Sometimes you're counting cards in your graveyard, sometimes you'll count overall creatures. So it just kind of depends. This feels pretty strong.
Yeah, we've seen these 3-mana 2/2s that bring along a 1/1 plenty of times before. They're always good.
This one has got a little bit of an upside, right? For each fractal you control, so it potentially makes a 5/5.
No, also it always makes a 1/1. It puts a +1/+1 counter on each one you control.
Oh,
if you have more of them,
yep,
it'll pump those.
I misread it. I thought it said put +1/+1 counters on it for each fractal you control. Okay, slightly different, but yeah, still great value over like a wider board, which is the same thing as what I thought, because I thought it was getting bigger for a wider board. So same technical incentive, but yeah, worst case scenario, it's 3/3 for 3, which seems great with some upside.
Yeah, I think this card is a solid 3.
I agree, with a pretty big ceiling for a common card.
Yeah, if you're making a bunch of fractals, and it's also one that gets better in multiples.
Oh, agreed. Yeah, that makes sense. And it's only common, so like pooping this guy out 3 times is going to be pretty nuts.
Agreed.
All right, Blade Historian. Here's one of our first hybrid cards, guys. It's going to be difficult to cast if you're not in exactly those 2 colors, but if you are, it makes it extremely easier to cast compared to like the 2 white, 2 red specific kinds we see normally. Attacking creatures you control have double strike. It is a 2/3 for 4, which kind of has double strike when attacking itself.
Yeah.
What do we think about its ability? I think it's mana, like 4 colorless mana for a first strike 2/3 attacker is not that bad. Now it doesn't have double strike on, when you're blocking, so it's a little bit of a downside there, but giving it to all your creatures, it doesn't say flying, it doesn't say anything. Normally there's some sort of like caveat to it. Feels pretty strong.
Yeah, what I like about this is it doesn't require it to attack.
Yes, that's true. Maybe that is one of the caveats as well. When this attacks, attacking creatures get X.
Yeah, so it can just, you don't have to suicide this into or trade into a 3/3 to get the ability. You can just sit here and let your 3/2 spirit tokens get double strike every turn they attack.
The nice thing about it is it kind of gives its ability haste in that way, because like you said, we normally see when it attacks. So they could just be like, oh, I'll just take like 2 creatures, no big deal. So they can like spend their mana in such a way where they're not expecting both those creatures to gain double strike, which is pretty big. That's a huge swing, and I feel like casting this will then instantly kill them with what you have on the board sometimes.
Yeah, card's good. I mean, it needs help, right? It's got to have a board, a reasonable board for it to be good. But red white is trying to generally create a decent amount of small creatures.
Yep, I agree with that. And a bunch of 3/2s, which are pretty powerful double strikers.
Yeah, definitely.
Rating wise?
Presuming we're in Lorehold, I have this as a 3. Obviously, all the hybrid costs are going to go way down if you're trying to play them in a single.
Yeah, I'm a little bit higher on it, but not by too much. I think a 3 is like that filler mark where I'm officially happy with. This feels better to me than that, so I'm in the 3-5 range.
Okay.
But that's pretty close.
Yep.
That one had the least text, took us the longest. 2/2 for 3, another one. This is the same cycle as our Quandrix one. It's a 2/2 with Menace, and whenever you gain life, put a +1/+1 counter on this. I like that. Cards, it's common. It makes like that, that wall defender that just like gains you life every turn. It makes things like that pretty good.
Yeah, it's not that far under what I would be willing to play without the last ability. 3 mana, 3/2 Menace we play fairly often. So it's only a little bit under that. And the gain life ability is way better than the extra point of power.
Yeah, this seems very, very strong for a common. And if you're getting multiples of these, it's making, like I said, that wall that we thought maybe was a little underwhelming, except for the very specific deck, much better. I would expect to see something like this at uncommon.
Yeah, I'm a little surprised that this cycle is at common.
They seem strong.
Yeah. Yeah, I think this card is good. You're going to have synergy to make it, but you should have some at least in Witherbloom.
Great. 3.
Yep.
I feel like our multicolor cards always take like a little bit of a ding power-wise, just because they themselves are all much stronger than what we see in the individual color cards. So like rating the single colors compared to each other, right, kind of spreads out that score a little bit more. Whereas these are all so powerful, it kind of condenses the scores. So if we saw this ability on like a blue card, it would be much, much higher for whatever reason. But like the multicolor cards just have such a ceiling that like it drops the power level of these a bit, I feel. Blot out the sky. We have a X sorcery. Create X tapped 2/1 white black Inklings with flying. If X is 6 or more, destroy all non-creature, non-land permanents. So it's got a nice little bonus in that like it blows up enchantments and stuff. Planeswalkers, if need be.
Yeah, I think this card is fantastic.
I agree. This is a mythic.
Yeah, assuming you play it for at least X equals 2, you're happy. 4 mana for 2/2/1 flyers is fine, and then it just gets better.
Yeah. Certainly kind of feels like Starnheim Unleashed. I mean, granted, the 2/1s are not as powerful as 4/4 flyers, but they're half as expensive technically.
Yep.
Because it's XX for Starnheim. So yeah, I mean, it seems great, and the Inklings will go very, very wide. There's a ton of counter mechanics in that set. I mean, I would even splash this if I were playing one of the other colors, if possible.
Yeah, agreed.
Great.
I think this is just a 5.
All right. Moving on. Body of Research. Now, this has a hell of a casting cost that is not hybrid. Create X green fractal or green-blue fractal tokens. Put X +1/+1 counters on them, where X is the number of cards in your library. Wait, what?
Yeah, this is like a 6 mana 20.
Okay. It is a 6 mana 20/20. I mean, it's a mythic. It doesn't have trample. Bounce spells are pretty good against it.
And it's really hard to cast.
Yeah.
That being said, I mean, I don't know. It's just here, it's just so large.
It is so large, but like we saw a ton of exile in black. Even the destroy target tapped creature in white kills it, right? Because it wasn't an amount like it typically is. It was just straight exile tapped creature. So I feel like maybe there's more things to deal with this. It's sorcery speed, so you can't like trick them end of turn. So it gives them a full turn to deal with it. Now, if they can't deal with it, holy shit, it's a huge beater. But is it that much bigger of a beater than like a bookworm?
I mean, it literally can't. You can't take a single hit.
Yes, but it's potentially slightly easier to answer in that it's a token. So now bounce spells and things like that deal with it.
Yeah, the fact that you can bounce it is relevant. But I mean, if I just saw a 6 mana vanilla 20/20, that card's fantastic.
I agree.
I mean, this is obviously difficult to cast.
But if you saw a vanilla 20/20 that it then couldn't be bounced, you could get it back out of your graveyard, things like that. This has like a lot more downsides. Didn't we see something like this where you flashed in and end of turn turned your land into like a 7/7?
Yeah.
My only point was that like if you're staring at a bookworm, your opponent can't deal with it, you're probably dead anyway. And then the same thing goes for this, right? It seems like more overkill to me, with a couple of extra downsides.
Yeah, I think to me the only major downside for this versus bookworm is the casting cost. Bounce is relevant, but there are there's the card that gives -X/-X, and I think can be up to 7 that can kill bookworm. It can't kill.
Yeah. So there, but how many bounce spells are there? We saw one in the multicolor. We saw, I don't remember how many in blue. That was like 2 days ago.
Yeah, there were a few.
Okay, well, what do you rate it?
I think this card is, I'd say a 4.
Okay.
I might even want to put it higher, but I think the casting cost is too much to put it higher.
I also kind of have it at a 4. But I'm tempted to put it lower. But I think 4 is about right. Like I said, it just has too many downsides for me, and it seems like a win more. Only costs 6. It only costs 6, but it's super mana specific. So like you can't have 4 blue, 2 green. Like the chances of you having 3 and 3 on 6 is super, like, it's much harder to get than most casting costs.
Yeah, definitely.
This spell costs 2 less during your end step. Destroy target creature or planeswalker you don't control. Put a +1/+1 counter on up to 1 target creature. Okay.
Yeah, great removal spell. Weird timing restriction, but
it is, but it's not really like much of a downside.
No, it's just an upside.
Yeah.
I'd pay without the 2 less to cast. I'd play this card every.
Yeah, it's probably a little, if without the bonus casting cost, it's probably a little worse than some of our other removal spells we saw in the black. But I mean, that's still a fine card.
Yeah, I mean, I just have this right alongside those at a 4.
I would probably drop it without the reduction cost, but I think 4 is right with it.
Yep.
Cram session, 2 mana, gain 4 life with learn. Moderately low impact unless it synergizes well with your deck, but learn if you have good learn spells.
Yeah, I'm probably looking for other learn spells if I don't have a whole bunch of synergy, but this is fine. You're black-green, but you should have some.
Yep, I agree. I mean, and I was actually very impressed with the colorless lessons that make me a little happier with running slightly less impactful spells, especially with Magecraft. That makes those things a bit better.
Yeah. That being said, I've got this at a 2 at best.
Okay, yeah, I was 1.5.
yeah. It's probably more of a 1.5. It's 2 if you've got enough stuff you want to get.
It's got some upside with synergy, but in general, we're not looking to play this.
Yeah.
All right, Tiny Text, take it away.
Creative Outburst, 3 blue, red. For an instant, deals 5 damage to any target. Look at the top 5 cards of your library, put 1 into your hand, the rest on the bottom of your library in a random order. You can also discard this for 2 blue-red hybrid to create a treasure.
So is this like a hyped up, roided out version of, was it?
Prophetic Bolt?
No. There was one recently, I think maybe it drew a card? Or gave you a card back? Okay, ignore me, I don't really remember what the card did.
It's very similar to an older card in Prophetic Bolt, which was, I think, 5 mana, deal 4. And you could look at the top 3 or 4 and get 1. Didn't have, obviously, the discard thing.
Rowell's Outburst, that's what I'm thinking. I don't remember exactly what it did, but this reminds me of that. Thank you, Striker.
Expensive. 7 mana to deal 5, but and draw and replace itself. But if you're in Prismari, you want to be casting big spells. This is not ever going to be dead in your hand because at worst you can ramp with it to fuel your other big spells. I like this card, although it is very expensive.
It is very expensive, but that's kind of what, like you said, Prismari wants. And they actually have a ton of other cards that do create treasure tokens that should enable these kinds of things easier. Now, if you don't have that synergy, we're not looking to play this. It is also a bit awkward to cast, but the treasure tokens should take care of that. Still not like something I'm over the moon about, but...
No, I'm happy to play this. I've got this around a 3.
Great. Culling Ritual, 4 mana, destroy target non-land permanent, which mana value 2 or less. Add swamp or forest for each permanent destroyed this way. Okay, so it lets you destroy each non-land permanent, yeah. Lets you kill all the small things and then ramp out some stuff. It does say non-land permanent, so like when it kills your pests, it will ramp you into a bunch of stuff. So, kind of cute with a really, really wide pest deck.
Yeah, I really don't like this card at all.
It's a sideboard card, I think.
It's a sideboard card, yeah. It does have some more value in this format than usual because it kills tokens. and every deck is going to be making tokens, but
Someone said it kills the 2020 token. It's true.
yep. So yeah, I just have this as a side.
Yeah, I think it's a sideboard card. I could see a deck where it's like super cute to ramp into with like the big dragon and a bunch of little pests. Because like worst case scenario, you're probably draining them out with your pests if you want to kill them. Just not in many decks, but a very specific weird one.
Except pests don't drain; it's you gain 1 life.
Yeah, but there are cards that drain in it. But yes, I keep saying drain when it is not. Yeah, sideboard card. I'm gonna put this at a 2.
Sure.
There are a lot of tokens in the set. Yeah, it kills all of the Prismari stuff as well. So definitely something you want to be boarding in, guys. Take it away.
All right. Culmination of studies. Blue-red X sorcery. Exile the top X cards in your library. For each land exiled, create a treasure token. For each blue card exiled, draw a card. For each red card exiled, deal 1 damage to each opponent. This is a weird card. You're getting no matter what you hit, you're getting something, which is.
I'm listening. I just messed up my scorings here.
Oh, I don't know what cost I would have to pay for me to be happy with this card. Probably X equals 4 or 5. The fact that you would get, both to draw a card and deal 1 for every blue-red gold card you hit is nice.
Yeah.
But it's kind of pretty random.
It is pretty random, not something I would be super exciting to play in most decks, right?
Yeah, I think your
this
Prismari
feels
decks
more constructed to me.
Agreed. I think Prismari decks are going to have plenty of options at the top end that you're not going to do this.
Man, I really botched up my scorings here all of a sudden. Okay. 2 HG? Let's play it there. It says each opponent. That could probably kill somebody.
Yeah, the other thing that's kind of awkward about this card is like the best case scenario is you're hitting blue cards to draw cards, but that means you've just exiled spells, means you're probably going to draw lands.
Well, it depends how many you exile, right? Like hypothetically, if you take the top 5 cards, your next top 5 cards should be evenly distributed. So, like,
yeah, but if you've exiled 4 blue cards in 1 land, which is what you want because you want to draw 4 cards, then your land to spell ratio is way off in what's left.
Yeah, but most of the time it's going to be dead average, right? We're going to kind of assume it's split.
Yeah. But I'm saying when you hit the stuff you want to hit, it's actually not that good.
Yeah.
Yeah, the top scenario ends up not being as good as you would hope.
That's just so hard to say because you don't know, like, maybe your first couple of draws were more lands. So, like, I think at base, at least like in poker, I would kind of assume that, like, the land ratio in your top 5 theoretically is going to be the same as your next 5. So it's kind of weird to say because, like, if you say, oh, I hit all these spells, so I'm more likely to draw lands, but what if you draw the lands in the beginning? So your whole deck should average out. So I don't know if I like that evaluation, but...
So the way I'm looking at it is if you hit mostly treasures, you're unhappy. Or mostly lands, because all you're getting is
treasures.
If you hit mostly blue cards, you're drawing cards, which is good, but you've just taken spells out of you. If you hit red cards, it's kind of in the middle, because I think that's like a mediocre result.
Uh-huh.
So I just don't think there's any one of those scenarios, or even in the middle, are you particularly happy with the result.
I agree with that. My only point was that, like, when you're looking at one particular thing, saying that you're due to hit something else now is not, like, that's just gambler's fallacy. Right?
Well, I disagree. If you've taken out more spells than lands, you are more likely to hit more lands.
But
you're not 100% to, but you're more likely.
but you're also just as likely to take out more lands than spells, drawing you to your lands, or maybe you had previously drawn more lands to spells, evening out the ratio in your deck.
Yeah.
So if you know, it averages out to be one result. Maybe as just a poker perspective. So I'm not super happy with this card. I think it's really good if you want to ramp into stuff, probably. I don't mean really good. I mean, it's probably playable if you have just like the Prismari deck that wants to do this kind of stuff. You're fine with it, but other than that, probably not.
Yeah. I just think, I think there's going to be better options at the top end. Prismari.
Yeah, at rare, I would hope so.
Yep.
All right, Titan. Whenever the Titan attacks or blocks, sacrifice a creature. It is a 4 mana 11/10. It's hybrid, so it's super easy to cast too.
Yeah. And good in the colors that it's in, because you hopefully have pest to sacrifice.
Yes, you kind of have to be in that. Otherwise, it's too hard to cast, and you probably won't have enough targets to make it happen often enough.
Yeah. Tough cards because you have to have the synergy to make this any good at all. But if you do, it's a pretty nasty threat for format.
Certainly, a lot of the pest tokens are super cheap too.
Yeah.
So you could potentially curve out with like turn 2 pests, turn 3 2 pests, or whatever. Turn 4 this, and then the next time, 2-drop, or another pest or whatever, and then the game's just kind of over if they don't answer it.
Yeah. I guess the one downside is right, because kind of like the big token we talked about earlier, just chump this all day, and in this case, chumping isn't even getting you anything because it's a 1-for-1. You're sacrificing a creature as well. Now, maybe you're getting something in terms of quality. And card-wise, it's neutral.
Yeah, there's also a couple of payoff sack mechanics that, like, when you sack something, X happens. So, like, you could be potentially stacking triggers that would kind of mitigate that a bit. But
yeah, sure.
If they're not in also the pest deck, I don't see them chumping this all that often, or all that long. I mean, you need quite a few pests, though. So what do we like it score-wise?
I'll get it to 3-5. I like it a little bit worse than the 2020, but in that same range.
I think, yeah, the only time you want this is in literally one deck, and when you want it, it is that good. So I personally maybe going to split rating it. I feel like it's kind of like a 1-5/4, because the upside is just so stinking high on it. We got a woe-eater, a 7/6. Man, there's some fat creatures in this format all of a sudden.
Yeah.
It's weird. Black hybrid green. That is the first time I've really seen that kind of a mana cost.
Yeah, there's a full cycle of these in this set with that kind of mana cost.
At the beginning of your upkeep, sacrifice a creature. Whenever you sacrifice a creature, each opponent discards a card. You draw a card and lose 2 life. So it fuels itself. When you sacrifice a creature, you're drawing a card, hopefully to potentially replace it.
You only get that trigger when you sacrifice this.
Oh, never mind. Okay, so at the end it will replace itself.
Yeah.
It's so big, though.
Yeah, it's a little bit like your preview card from the last set. In that, it eventually is going to run out of fuel, but it replaces itself when that happens.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. This feels basically just like the last card.
Yeah, it's definitely worse because you have to sacrifice a creature every turn, as opposed to, potentially you can just have the Titan sit there. But you do get something out of it when it dies. So maybe it's around the same level, and it's a little.
Yeah, it's a little smaller. I agree. I like the idea that you don't have to send with it, but I also like the idea. Yeah, you sack on upkeep, right? Beginning of your upkeep. So it's not attacking unless you can sack.
Yeah.
So it's a bit more restrictive. I actually think I like this a little less, but not by much. Only the pest deck.
Yeah, I don't know. I'm actually more I think about it. What's the worst case with this card? 4 mana. I mean, I guess they could kill it, but if they don't kill it, it's 4 mana, 7/6, sits there, buys a turn on a block, and then you sacrifice itself and you get a 2/4.
I think the worst case scenario is like you have one other creature and then they kill that creature on their turn, and then you just upkeep, gain 2 life, draw a card for 4 mana.
And they discard, so it's a 2/1.
Yeah. The discard is an interesting addition to that card, actually.
Yeah.
I was thinking about the draw and gain life. I actually kind of forgot about the discard.
Yeah. The fact that it's almost a guaranteed 2/1, I mean, yeah, not if it trades for like a 7/7.
Yeah.
Or they kill it with a removal spell, but
the discard is a bit better. But now, yeah, it says when you sacrifice it, so it's not when it dies.
Yep.
It gets those abilities, so...
Yeah, so it's a 1/1 if they just kill it, but...
Yeah.
Yeah, I actually have this right at the same spot as the last card, I guess, a 3/5.
All right, great. That's about where I am as well, or a 1/5. I don't think this is something I want to be splashing in like a deck that doesn't have pests. Maybe Fractal tokens, I guess, if you have a lot of them.
Yeah.
Deadly Brew. Each player sacrifices a creature or planeswalker. If you sacrificed a permanent this way, you may return another permanent card from your graveyard to your hand. Great. It says permanent. It doesn't say non-token permanent. So you just sack a pest, get them to get something, and then you get something better. And it says return target card, not permanent, right? Oh, permanent card. Never mind. Yeah. I like this card.
Yeah, I think this card is good. You know, there's a pretty decent chance you're not going to get much out of them. You know, there's a good chance they have some form of token too, but that's fine. You're still gonna get back something, and as long as you can sacrifice a pest, you'll come out ahead.
Yeah, most likely you'll get something better than your pest, even if it's not the thing you want, and then you'll get a lot of extra value, which you know you typically want your pests to die anyway. I like this a fair amount. This seems like it's everything that Witherbloom wants to do.
Yeah, I've got it at a 3 just because it can't quite. It's not reliable to get what you want, but it's still good. I'm going to play it in every.
Yeah, I think I have it a little bit higher just because of the recursion side of it, but not by much. So 3 to 3/5, somewhere in there. Denial. Decisive Denial. Choose one target creature you control fights target creature you don't control. Counter target non-creature spell unless its controller pays 3. Huh. That's an interesting split card.
Yeah, I mean, card is great. Instant speed fight is always.
Yeah, instant speed fight, a 3, you know, unless they pay 3 is a fine rate. 2 I start to get a little iffy on, but 3 I think is great. You'll get value for it at any point in the game, especially with all the crazy ass 8 mana spells that are flying around. 7, 8 mana dragons and stuff.
Yeah, no, I mean it's restrictive, right? It can only hit non-creatures, so you know, it's not unconditional, but it'll hit those large Prismari spells.
The fact that it just does 2 vastly different things gives it a ton of points in my book.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah, I've got this at 3/5.
Agreed. I like it there as well. Deadly Brew. How did I mess this up again? Great. Diana Soul Steeper. Whenever you gain life, each opponent loses 1 life. That's what I was talking about earlier. Sacrifice another creature. This gets plus X plus O until end of turn, where X is the sacrificed creature's power. Whenever you gain a life, your opponent loses a life. So this one turns your pests into a drain, which I think when I initially started looking at the set, I saw this and I was like, great, my pests are draining them, which is why I just keep saying draining, even though, you know, it requires this uncommon, but...
Yeah, this card is fine. Just does what Witherbloom wants. Needs help. Otherwise, it's just a 2-mana 1/3, but that's all right. You know, I mean, fits the themes. That's what this deck is going to be looking.
Yeah, at its worst, it's like filler. It feels like, you know, 2-mana 1/3 that like maybe triggers sometimes, which is like a 2. But if you are in the Witherbloom deck, if you have the pests, if you've got the sack outlets, this feels great. 2, 3, 5?
Yeah, that's fine. It's also a Dryad Druid, which is fun to say.
Is that why you gave it the 3.5? Is it the Dryad Druid?
0.5.
Great. Double Major. 2 mana. Copy target creature spell. Creature you control, except it isn't a legendary. Great. Creature spell you control. So it has to be on the stack. It's not target creature.
Yep.
That's an interesting ability we don't typically see.
Yeah, you can't copy tokens.
And you have to have the mana to do it in the same turn. Like most of the time when you copy things, you just do it later after it's in play. Whereas this, it's like, okay, you have to have the extra 2 mana. You have to have a creature worth casting to double. So it's a bit more restricted in that way.
Yeah, it's the blue-green version of what we usually see in blue-red on spells.
Yes.
I'm not a huge fan of this card, although Quandrix being ramp helps a little bit. Because the spells you're going to want to target with this are going to already be pretty expensive.
Yes. So it does make those come out slower.
And yeah, now the fact that it's targeting a spell on the stack means that you're also prevented from getting 2-for-1 if they kill it in response. They have to counter it, which is less likely to happen than killing a creature is.
I agree with that.
So, you know, the fact that it has to happen on the same turn as it has its ups and downs. I think you're probably going to play this in your Quandrix decks, but I don't think it's going to be something you're searching at. You know, I've got this at like probably a 2/5 with upside if you have a ton of ramp.
It's definitely a little bit harder to evaluate. Yeah, I'm kind of on the fence.
Yeah, I'm hedging as well on that.
This also feels like the kind of card that will be easy to miss.
Yeah.
Like, you know, rate essentially, just because without getting your hands on the format, we don't know how reliable that ramp is. We've seen a lot of ramp in Quandrix and a fair amount of green draw spells and return cards, which will actually maybe make this a little bit more valuable. But again, it's not really like how effective those things will be. We won't know until we actually get our hands on the set. So 2, 5, 3, it's a little bit weird to hedge, but I feel like this is maybe one of the cards that is a little stickier to actually evaluate. Dramatic Finale. Hybrid card. Creature tokens you control get +1/+1, so great for our Inklings. Whenever one or more non-token creatures you control dies, create a white and black Inkling. Oh, it only triggers once per turn. That's cute. It fuels itself.
Yes.
I like this card even without Inklings.
Yeah, I think this card is very easy to cast if you're in Silverquill, which I assume is the only time you're playing this. Yeah, I think this card's fantastic.
I agree. Now you do need to have like a little bit of a higher creature count in your deck for a card like this. Like I feel like, you know, white-black oftentimes has maybe sometimes a little bit of a slower or a lower creature count because it's not typically the more aggressive theme, but it is in this format. But I'm not looking to play this in like my 10 creature more control-y removal decks. But you know, anything that's got some beats, I'm pretty happy with, which actually seems to be like the theme here in Silver Quill.
Yeah, it's nice that you can play this in your heavy creature decks and your heavy
Token
token
decks.
creation decks.
Yeah.
Which sometimes aren't creature spells, but they're still going to be good with this card.
I feel like you're getting more value if it's the heavy creature deck versus the heavy token deck, right? Because you're actually just getting free dudes versus like a small pump on your spells that you're already casting. So you're right, it goes in either deck and it's a house in either of them.
Yeah.
4?
I think this is I have this at a 4/5.
Okay. I think that like
very good.
It requires a long time of being on the battlefield for it to like make its money. So I'm a little hesitant to go much higher than that, only because like if you don't already have like a fair amount of things on the board, it might just kind of do not much.
Yeah, no, that's true. It's not a perfect card. It has fail case.
All right, elemental expressionist, take it away. I cannot read any of those words.
Another hybrid card. This one, the Prismari one, 4 hybrid blue-red to cast, 4/4 Orc Wizard, Magecraft. Whenever you cast a copy, instant, or sorcery, choose target creature you control. Till end of turn, it gains. If this creature would leave the battlefield, exile it instead of putting it anywhere else. And when you exile it, make a 4/4 element. So, I'm not a huge compared to the last card we just saw. This hybrid, I think this is way worse, but it's still a good card. It's still a 4-mana 4/4 on its own. That in the Prismari deck is a colorless 4 effectively. And the ability could work pretty well if you have small things, which unfortunately doesn't really fit with the Prismari theme.
If this creature would leave the battlefield, exile instead of putting it anywhere else, and make a 4/4 elemental. Huh. I see this like as a combat trick.
Yeah.
So
it's good with combat tricks.
Yeah, so you just like attack with your puny dude, and then they're like, block it with my big dude, and you're just like, kill your other dude, let my guy die, make a thing. So like,
it's
a little weird, but
it's good against removal, right? If you have an instant, you can play any instant, and now the removal spell just turns whatever your creature is into a 4/4.
Yeah, especially if that instant is like a kill their spell thing, so you're like getting infinite value. If you're just like burning a combat trick for no reason, then it's not great, but
then it's not as good. But you're in blue red, so you might have instant speed card draw.
Yeah, that's true. Card draw or removal, I think, is where the value for this card is going to come in. I like that.
Yeah. Card needs some work. But you know, at its baseline, it's still a 4-mana 4/4, which is fine.
Yeah, I agree. It's fine. It is not a dramatic finale, though.
No. I've got this. I don't know. Probably a 3 with some upside if your deck is heavy spells. The only reason I'm hesitant is because heavy spell decks and Prismari are going to be probably a lot of expensive spells, which are harder to get value out of.
Yeah, I agree with that. It's definitely a tough one to evaluate. It's going to be very dependent upon what your creatures are. If becoming a 4/4 is an upgrade, which a lot of Prismaris aren't. Prismari creates a bunch of tokens, which aren't going to quite work with this. Your spells are too expensive. Like this, it sounds like it has the Prismari flavor because it's casting spells and it's making 4/4s, but like it is also very counterintuitive and disjointed.
Yeah, I agree with all of that. It is nice that it can fuel itself in a way, like you make a 4/4 and then you can target that 4/4 the next time. It's not non-token creature. But still, you know, that's a corner.
Yeah. All right, guys. So I think it's like a 3-ish with some upside, like you said. Let's go ahead and move along. Elemental Masterpiece. It is a very expensive spell that create 2 4/4 blue elemental tokens, or you can discard it to make a treasure. I don't know that I like this discard to make treasure options. It makes it so it never goes to waste, but like That's not usually how I feel like I want limited to go. Discard spells for temporary ramp is usually a good way to not win matches of Magic. Now, if you have a lot of card draw to like kind of mitigate that, or ways to get spells back out of your graveyard or recast them, maybe another story. But the average deck, I don't know if I want to discard 2 spells to help me cast my 8 power card, right?
Yeah, I generally don't either. You know, at least some of those big spells, like this one, for example, is giving you kind of 2 cards. So if you've discarded 1 to make a treasure to help cast this, you're getting 2 bodies. Like
Yes.
2 real bodies, not like 1/1s.
Yeah, that's true. If the rest of your cards that you're casting with the treasure tokens are kind of 2-for-1s in themselves,
yeah,
then sure, it's a little bit different, but
yeah,
I guess that's possible with this being common.
Yeah, I don't love that mechanic either. I mean, I do like that if they're trying to get you to put a bunch of 7 and 8 drops in your deck, this gives you a chance to do that. So I think it's an interesting idea. I agree, though, in general, I don't like how that mechanic looks.
Yeah. Now, like I said, if you have an excessive amount of card draw, then you can probably compensate for it, and it's probably fine. But still, I don't mind one of these on the top end of my curve regardless. 7 mana is pretty reasonable and limited, as like a 1 of.
Yeah. Yeah, I got this like right around a 2/5.
Yeah, I think it depends on the rest of the deck, but the Prismari deck wants to cast big things. You know, it'll have other affecting triggers that work well with this, so I think it's a 2/5 or a 3 in the right deck.
Yep.
They don't fly or anything, so I'm not overly excited. If they flew, I'd be much higher.
Yeah, definitely.
Cute. Whatever it is. Elemental Summoning. Create a 4/4 blue elemental token. Simple for 5. It's a lesson, though, so it's free. So it comes in for free. I was like, why is this so expensive? But no, it makes sense now that it's free. I like this card.
I do too, and this is one of like the hybrid cards I'm actually okay with playing in just blue or just red as a lesson out of my sideboard.
Yeah, because it's only 2.
Because it's only 2, and it's not going to sit in your hand dead because you're getting it for free.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, I think this card is a lesson you want to pick up for any of your blue or red decks.
This is probably one of the better lessons just because it is an impactful body, though it's a little overpriced. A lot of the other lessons just don't quite do enough to justify their own cost, but we're okay with it because it's still free. But this one actually is, you know, like something of substance ends up being left on the battlefield, so I like it. I take it out of 3?
Yep, 3.
Great. All right. A Eureka moment. 4 mana, draw 2 cards. You may put a land card from your hand onto the battlefield. It's a ramped up growth spiral?
Double growth spiral. We had to ban it the first time around, so let's try it with 2.
But you don't get to put 2 lands into the battle.
No,
still
not
ramps.
quite double, yeah.
Yeah. It's only 50% X a growth spiral, not 100% X a growth spiral.
Yeah.
But yeah, the draw 2 but makes it far more likely that you'll hit the land. In limited, a lot of times I'm like, okay, I want that growth spiral to ramp me into my like 4th land, but I don't hit it. So, you know, this one maybe makes it a little bit easier, but it does cost 4.
Yeah. But 4 mana instant speed card draw, I think we tend to play anyway.
Oh yeah, because it just draws you
even
2.
Without ramping. Yeah.
It's like an instant cast divination for 1 more that lets you put the land into play.
Yeah.
I like this card.
Yeah, I think this card's great. Green is going to want these... Green, blue, and Quandrix is going to really want these card draw spells to make up for the fact that they're going to be spending cards to ramp.
Yes, I agree with that. And this does both. It makes up for that ramp in addition to drawing you the extra card.
Yeah, I think we haven't looked at all of it yet, but there's a decent chance this is Quandrix's best combo.
It's interesting. It does everything I want Quandrix to do.
Yeah.
It, you know, instant speed, triggers your Minecrafts, ramps you, gives you the cardboard advantage, does literally everything. So, I mean, I'm pretty high on this card. I feel like it's like a 4/5 or 3/5.
Yeah,
4/5.
I have it at 3/5.
which is weird because it's not like typically 3/5s, like if left undealt with, can typically win the game over like a long period of time. Like they're like a decent sized body for a good cost, usually with a relevant ability. And this one doesn't actually like do much, but it just feels so valuable.
Yeah, it's a 3/5 in the sense that like premium removal is ranked highly. It's just efficient and does exactly what you want it to.
Yeah, but it's not killing anyone.
Yeah,
per se on its own, right?
Yeah.
So that's just like a weird thing that like I typically don't see cards, spells that draw or ramp typically don't get that high.
Now, if that was green, green, blue, blue, you'd probably get to put 2 lands in play.
Yes, that would also make it more poopy to cast. I think I would be sadder about that.
That would make that card worse.
Yeah, like I would splash that in my Witherbloom.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
All right, 4 mana. Put 2 +1/+1 counters on target creature you control. Other creatures you control get +1/+1 until end of turn. Okay, so it's one of those, you know, trumpet blasty type. We've seen this in white a bunch for the go wide strategies, but it actually leaves a lasting effect, which is kind of nice. They don't typically do that.
Yeah, that's definitely an upside in this card. The downside is if they kill the creature you target in response, it completely fizzles. So the other ability doesn't happen.
Agreed. That is a big downside. And it's sorcery speed, which most of the time these abilities are instant.
Yeah. Those like trumpet blast type effects, you generally know exactly when you want them. It's when you're in the super wide token deck.
Yes.
Which Silver Quilt is the wide aggressive deck in the format. So it's on theme. But I think, you know, especially if you just look at what we just saw for 2 green blue, this is pretty low impact.
Yeah, I actually like, so some sets want this a lot more than others. I feel like I agree, this is the set that wants, or this is the school that wants it. But like we had a trumpet blast effect in Keldheim in white, and I almost never ran it. Even when I felt like I was in that deck, it was just low impact enough to where I wasn't super, you know, it typically got cut. So the other thing I will say though is that in Silver Quill there is also the side bonus of having a ton of synergy with tokens, or I'm sorry, counters. So if you've got any of that to mix in, where it's like you're going wide, plus you're getting this residual value, it might be worth the risk.
Yep.
Because it does have, it meets your synergy in every category, right? They're going wide, and they have cards that interact with your counters. So put those two things together, and you're happy with this. But if you're just really like, oh, it's just a counter and this pump spell, or vice versa, then probably not.
Yeah.
Instant, that'd be another story, but
agreed.
Sorcery, it's kind of poop.
I have this at like a 2.
Yeah, it's like a 2 to a 3 in the right deck, but like it's got a very low ceiling even in the right deck.
Yeah.
All right, your turn.
Expressive iteration, blue-red sorcery. Look at the top 3 cards of your library, put 1 into your hand, 1 on the bottom of your library, and exile 1 of them, and you can play the exiled card this turn. I actually kind of like this card. It's a little low impact, but it's a decent card in the early game. It lets you try to find your 3rd land, if you need to, or your 4th land. You know, with 3 shots at it. And in the late game, it's actually a really good draw because you're getting 2 cards that turn.
While ditching the land or whatever you want.
While getting rid of the one you don't want.
Yeah, it's basically draw 2. You get to pick your 2. And I think it's pretty good. It's got a bit of a restriction because you have to like pick which one you can cast.
Yeah, no, you can exile a land and play the land.
Yes. So super early, it's most likely you're going to get a land because you won't be able to cast whatever it is plus this.
Yep.
But you know, mid to late game, you're just getting 2 spells most likely. Seems like a strong turn 3 play. Yeah, because you get a free land essentially. I also like it as a turn 4 play because, you know, you just get your 2-drop or whatever off the top, and then your strongest spell goes into your hand. Seems reasonable enough. What do we like it for rating?
Got it like a 3. Be happy with it. not the biggest impact, but the fact that it's good early game and good late game makes me happy with it.
Yeah, I like it at a 3 as well. I like that it triggers the Minecrafts reasonably cheap. Does all the things I want it to do. Yeah. Fractal summoning, it's a lesson. Create a 0 fractal token, put X +1/+1 counters on it. So it's just X hybrid makes X size creature. We see things like that a lot with like plants or little hydras. Wasn't there like a hydra one that had like a similar timing where it was just like, hey, X, get it? Typically hydras come into play with counters on it based on X.
You had Ivy Elemental, which is just X green.
Yeah, that's what I was thinking. Yeah.
Aurea, but you know, you're getting this for free, so that's why you've got the 1 extra mana cost, and you can play it in multiple colors.
This feels a lot more like the you know, higher quality lesson, like the weird badger looking one that we had that made the 4/4.
Elemental summoning.
Yeah, it was some sort of cute fuzzy animal.
Yeah, I like this card. But I have it right up there with Elemental Summoning. It's less efficient, right? 5 mana is only getting you a 3/3, not a 4/4.
But it's got more upside late game.
It's got more upside late game. You can also play it if you play a lesson on turn 3 and you've got nothing else to do on turn 4. You can play this to use your mana. Like, it's just more flexible.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, things like this are typically not going to go in our deck because the added value of it, what makes them good, is that it's just cardboard advantage. Now, the funny thing is we talk about this all the time saying it's free, it's so much extra value, blah, 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 but everybody else is doing it too. So it's like basically just neutral value. If you don't have these, you might actually just be like way behind. Does that make sense?
Yeah, definitely.
So it depends like how common they are, you know, how many times people end up running bad learn spells to get their lessons. So we'll see. I think this card should be taken reasonably highly if you have the learns. So 3-ish?
Yeah.
Great.
I like it at that.
It wouldn't be a 3 if I were putting it in my deck.
No, I wouldn't probably play this in my deck.
But for free, yeah, whatever. I'll cast it for 2, I don't care. Destroy target artifact or enchantment or planeswalker sideboard card, but one I'm certainly happy to have.
Yep, sideboard card. Not much else to say.
I will say that I don't think that, unlike the last set, Kaldheim, where I sometimes maybe will, if I'm a little light on playables, main deck a artifact enchantment removal because of sagas and the all of the equipments, right? The uncommon equipment cycles, the runes, there's a lot of stuff. Whereas this is going to be very underwhelming in this set where we're really not focused on that. So I will be main boarding this a lot less than I did in the previous set. And even then, it wasn't often.
Yeah. Agreed.
And you're also not punished as heavily for not taking it as well. Like, I really wanted them in the last set, whereas this one, it's okay to not have them in your side.
Yep, agreed.
All right, we have a 3/4 flyer for 4. When it enters the battlefield, create a treasure token. Artifacts you control have tap, add 1 mana of any color. Use only to cast instants or sorceries. Okay, so this literally does everything I want Prismari to do, and it's a good sized body. I like this.
Yeah, it's a little weird that the Prismari founder is only 4 mana, with how big everything is in that set. But that doesn't make it a bad card. In fact, it makes it a better card.
Yeah, it's super... Well, I mean, it makes sense to me that that it would be cheap, because if you had the 8 mana, then you don't really need... You know what I mean? Like, this is just an enabler.
Makes sense.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, 4 mana, 3/4 that ramps you, 4 mana, 3/4 flyer that ramps you, and turns all your treasures into permanent boosting. Permanent mana for instants and sorceries, at least.
Now, with this card, I am a little happier to discard my spells to make treasures.
Yeah. No, this card's great. You obviously want to have stuff to ramp into, but there's going to be no shortage of that in Prismari.
Yes. Now, it's not killing anybody immediately on its own. I mean, a 3/4 flyer can definitely, you know, do the job, but it's not like a bomb that then ends the game if it's not answered within a turn or two. So I don't think it's quite a 5. And the rest of its text is so synergy based that, you know, whether or not it comes up whether or not you draw the right cards is, you know, going to be a little bit hit or miss. So what are you thinking score-wise?
I've got it at a 4.
Yeah, I think it's between a 4 and a 4-5.
Yep.
I'm hoping that there's enough synergy to where this will pay you off and be a 4-5, but in the average deck, it's probably just a 4.
Yep. So just a note here that at this point, we would be done with any of the 5 colors, and we're at G.
Well, this video is already longer than... and they took us longer to evaluate them, too, because we're already, like, I don't know, 15-ish minutes over.
Yep.
All right. The golden ratio. Draw a card for each different power among creatures you control. I mean, this is most likely just a divination. I mean, the bad thing is you have to have creatures on board, so it makes it a way worse top deck with a higher ceiling of maybe drawing you 3 or 4, but having 2 is not unreasonable, right?
Yeah, it's a higher ceiling, lower floor than divination, harder to cast than just 2 blue, and you can't really use it to find your 4th mana as well because you probably don't have multiple different creatures out on turn 3.
Yep. I agree with that.
So that part's worse, but yeah, it has a much higher upside later in the game, especially with the variable power toughness among fractal tokens. Variable power, where they're all over the place, as opposed to like the other schools where they're all the same power as their tokens.
Yeah. And even without the so like what about the 3-drop that makes it a 2/2 +1 fractal and then casting like this after then? You know, it's pretty nice. I feel like this is a more restrictive early game card because you probably won't have it if you're looking for your 4th mana specifically on turn 3. Mid to late game, I feel like it's got a much higher ceiling. But if you're behind, then it's kind of poopy. And it's also a worse top deck if you're behind.
Yeah, there are times where this card does literal nothing. You know, one of the good things about divination is that you know what you're getting. Being said, I'm still probably putting this in my Quandary stack.
Yeah, I agree. 2/5?
2/5, yep.
Not quite divination, but also upside, I think, is pretty good.
Yeah.
I don't like this mana cost.
No, and it's a terrible. 1 black, green. Fun cost for 7 mana. Instant, exchange your hand in graveyard. Exile Harness Infinity.
So mid to late game, you just get to draw your graveyard?
Yeah, except you still have to discard down to 7, so you only get it for that 1 turn. After you've spent 7 at an awkward mana cost.
Yeah, but I mean, I feel like maybe still draw, like that's maybe okay. And it's instant speed, so you can probably go down to 7 after that, right? You cast it on their end step.
Yeah, but you just held up 7 mana, so you did nothing on your turn.
Late game, we do nothing all the time.
Yeah, I can't imagine I will ever cast this card.
Oh, I will cast this card.
I mean, I might as an achievement thing. I will never cast it if I'm trying to win a game.
I will cast this card. Like, I will try to find room to fit this in.
Yeah.
It's kind of insane late game. I would rather draw this than, like, a bookworm, probably.
Maybe, if your graveyard is good.
Yeah, even if it's just like 5 poop cards. Like, this seems like a nutso top deck. I'm super happy to play this. I'm not saying it's going to be great, guys, but it's getting played. Now,
yeah, I think this card's just a meme.
Yeah, this is a weird one, but I get all warm and fuzzy thinking about getting my graveyard into my hand. I'm playing it, don't care. I think this card will be more annoying than you think.
Yeah, there are a lot of bad cards that are pretty annoying.
It's so much value. Late game,
run amok.
It's insane.
Yeah, I think between it being 7, being super conditional, like if I'm spending 7 mana and finding a way to generate black, green, It needs to basically win me the game every time. And a lot of times, this isn't going.
All right, I'm giving it a 2-5. I'm playing it. Yanks is not playing it. Moving
this
on.
is a 1. That's a 1 for me. Next up, Hofri ghostforge. 3 red, white for a 4/5 dwarf cleric. Spirits you control get +1/+1 and have trample and haste. Whenever another non-token creature you control dies, exile it. If you do, create a token that's a copy of that creature, except it's a spirit in addition to its other types. And it has, when it leaves the battlefield, return the exiled card to your graveyard. So 5 mana 4/5 that pumps all your spirits.
And there's a lot of them.
Yep. And whenever something you dies, or something you have dies non-token, you get a copy. You get a spirit copy of it,
which seems nuts.
Yeah,
great.
This card's great.
It's got a little bit of impact the turn it comes into play with the other spirits, right? Like that could just be a lethal swing or make them make weird chumps. So I like that it actually does a little something when it comes into play, as opposed to like the Witherbloom dragon, which like if they kill it.
Yes, agreed.
Now, if they have instant speed, like it's the same, but
yeah. I really like this card. It's exactly what Lorehold wants to be doing. 5 mana 4/5 isn't particularly overpriced anyway, a little bit, but I've got this at like a 4, ironically at a 4/5.
So it does hit the graveyard though. When it dies, does it hit the graveyard? Yeah. So then when it leaves the graveyard, when you make the decision, will it trigger your leaves graveyard stuff?
It should.
That's pretty spicy.
I'd have to check the release notes when they come out, but it should as far as I can tell.
So not only does it give you great value on its own, it also is an engine for all of your other synergies in Lorehold.
Yeah.
Nice. Great. What do we rate this card?
So I unironically give it a 4/5.
Yeah, I agree. I think 4/5 is right where I like it. It will give you a 5's worth of value, but it doesn't leave any lasting effect if it gets removed immediately, which my 5's typically do.
Yep.
Humiliate. Target opponent reveals their hand. You choose a non-land card from it. That player discards a card. Put a +1/+1 counter on target creature you control. It's cheap. It hits everything but non-lands, which is what I like. I hate when it's restrictive. Like, target non-land, non-creature, target whatever.
Yeah, I think this card's fine.
Works well with counter synergies.
Yeah, it's cheap, but you're not going to really want to play it on turn 2 because you're going to want to get that counter value.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, I think this card's fine. We played Agonizing Remorse, which was at 1 and a black, so it was easier to cast. And Exiles, but this has a comparable upside.
Yeah.
I got like a 2/5.
Yeah, I like 2/5. Infuse with Vitality. Until end of turn, target creature gains Death Touch, and when this creature dies, return it to the battlefield tapped. You gain 2 life. Huh. I typically don't like these kinds of effects, but usually it's like +2/+0 and return it, or +2/+0 and indestructible. But the Death Touch means it's less conditional as far as trading up. If it gets removed in response, it still comes back, so it's still a 1-for-1, and you have the opportunity to gain life, triggering your other mechanics. So this is literally everything I want Witherbloom to do. This would be a good on bat.
Yeah. Yeah, I don't typically love these cards. They're playable, but your upside is a 1-for-1. I mean, I guess there's some scenario where you're attacking and they double block and you can Death Touch and get one out of it. But yeah, I mean, I think it's playable. I just have it as a 2.
Yeah, it's I think it's a little higher for me, only because it's so synergistic with what I want out of Witherbloom.
No, you higher than me on a combat trick? Never.
That's true. Yeah, not by much. It's like a 2.5 just because. But yeah, it doesn't work on the pests, which is like kind of the premium target for the little Death Touchy pokies.
Yeah, I mean, you still get a 1-for-1 out of it. because you're losing a pest token, which isn't a full card.
Yeah, and then you'll probably have other things that work too.
Yeah. To answer a question that's coming up in chat, if the spell fizzles, you do not gain 2 life if they kill the creature. The whole spell fizzles if the one target gets.
What is the ruling on that? Like, isn't it isn't there a clause where it'll still happen sometimes?
It's basically if a spell has a single target, then if that target gets removed, the spell fizzles completely. If that said target player gains 2 life, and you targeted yourself, then you would still gain life because it has 2 targets.
Got it. If all legal targets becomes illegal, it fizzles. Yes. Usually too, they'll be like, the 2 clauses will often be combined, which is a way you can tell, I've been told, but this one is not combined. But yeah, you're right that there is only 1 legal target.
Yeah. For anybody that plays Modern, it's the same reason that someone just posted it in chat, the cryptic command counter draw a spell. If the spell you're countering gets removed from the stack, or if the thing you're bouncing with cryptic command gets removed, you don't get to draw a card.
Gotcha. So you can counter your own countered spell to prevent them?
Yeah, people will remand it back to their hand and then draw a card off the remand and fizzle your cryptic.
Silly constructed players. Inkling summoning, guys. Create a 2/1 white-black Inkling with flying for 3, sorcery speed lessen. It's free.
Yeah.
So far I like all of these school-oriented summoning spells. This one I'm just going to give it a 3, is the same as the other. It's not quite as impactful body-wise, but it's like also evasive, so I think it's a wash.
Yeah. This is close to being playable in your deck. It's not, but it's close.
Yeah, I think if this was not a lesson, it would be instant speed, and then it would be playable.
Yeah.
And we did see one of those, didn't we? In black, there was a instant speed create a 2/1.
Yep.
Why are they free? So they're free as in they're lessons. So when you play an ability with learn, or a card with learn, you get to get that out of your sideboard for free. So it's just free card value. If you want more information on how that works, you can check out the video that's already live on the YouTube channel, which is the introduction to Strixhaven. If you're watching this on YouTube, go check it out. It goes over all the mechanics, all the guilds, and what the guilds are trying to do, and everything that you will find that is new or brought back in Strixhaven. All right, Kasmina.
Planeswalker and set, and everybody probably saw this card and saw 1 green blue and shuddered, because it's a scary mana cost lately.
Yeah, it is.
Kasmina Enigma Sage. Legendary Planeswalker Kasmina, 2 loyalty. Static ability, all other plane control have the loyalty abilities of Kasmina. Irrelevant, limited. +2, scry 1. -X, make a 0/0 green and blue fractal creature token with X counters on it. -8, search your library for an instant or sorcery card that shares a color with this planeswalker. Exile that card, then shuffle, and you can play that card. It's a planeswalker. It's good. This is not a great planeswalker though for limited.
Agreed.
The best thing about this card is that it's cheap. 3-mana planeswalkers are always going to be good, but +2 scry 1 is fine, but not super impactful. It can't protect itself the turn it comes out. The best it can do is make a 1/1 to chump something. And then -8 is good, but not a game-breaking ultimate.
No, it's not even in the Prismari colors that has like the big mega bomb spells we really want. Yeah. I could see like some justification for splashing this in a Prismari deck where you've got some of the big Prismari dual color spells, right? But yeah, 8 is super expensive. You have to plus it a certain number of times. Now I'm still playing this because I go +2, make a dude, +2, make a dude. If you're ahead on board, it'll like eke you out some great value, but it's not really bringing home the game in any quick pace.
Yeah, now I mean you can -8 and cast your crazy switch your graveyard hand spell.
Yeah. I'm gonna cast that card, and it's gonna be great. It's such a good late game card, and it's going to win games. And you're not gonna like it, and it's gonna bring me much joy.
Yeah, you'll probably do it when I somehow get paired against you too.
Planeswalker 4?
Yeah, 4. It's still very good. Still changes the game, but
it's super easy to kill. It comes into play so small. It can't really make a thing on its first attempt.
Yeah. Now it does immediately go to 4, which is nice.
Yeah, but then you're not protecting it, and then like it just kind of dies quickly.
Yeah.
Usually they come into play and kill something, or they come into play and make a body, and then it like kind of mitigates that weakness. But scry 2 and then possibly die to a pump spell feels real bad.
Yep.
All right, we have our the uncommon legendary school lord, legendary whatever. It's a 2/2 lifelinker for 2 with menace. Lifelink on a menace is pretty cute. Spells you cast that target a creature cost 2 less to cast, so it synergizes well with all your like put counter spells on things.
Yeah, this is a weird one because it doesn't really fit Silverquill's theme that well. Like lifelink isn't part of Silverquill's theme. I mean, it's an aggressive card, so it does in that sense. But really, just kind of just a good 2-drop.
I think its second ability, like the spells that target your creatures, fits its synergies pretty well. Like the black-white trumpet blast now costs you 2.
Yeah. Yeah, it's definitely relevant. It doesn't. It's supposed to put it. It doesn't seem to be as synergistic as the other lords we've the other uncommon lords we've seen.
It also all of the multicolor removal was in this, and it makes those cheaper too. Because Silverquill did seem like the removal format, or the removal guild.
Okay.
So we're casting those cheaper as well on our opponent's creatures. True. And then
that's a good point.
We have the most put counter on our stuff generating stuff. So I mean, it's very on theme. Whether or not it's going to be strong enough, I don't know. But it is. I agree. Lifelink doesn't seem like it's very on theme, but and it's also a white-black creature, so it feels like it should be on theme.
Agreed.
Inkling Duelist. Yeah, I like this card well enough. I think it's a 3 at its worst.
Yeah, I've got it at 3.
And then if you've got that synergy where you either have a lot of removal, or honestly the removal alone, casting that cheaper might bump it up to a 3/5 for me. Because this is the set that has a crap ton, right? It makes the white destroy target tapped creature only cost 1.
Yeah.
At instant speed.
No, I agree. I mean, that definitely helps.
Yeah, I like this. I'm going to bump it up a little, 3/5, just because of the removal, even if you don't have your token synergies. Lorenhold Apprentice, Magecraft 2/2 for 2. Spells, instants or sorceries, spirit creatures you control gain tap. This creature deals 1 damage to each opponent.
Yeah, I mean, it's just a bear with upside.
Yeah. I feel like the upside is actually... I agree. It's not... It's a weird one, but it is going to give a more aggressive deck a crap ton of reach.
Yeah.
Because you just like aggro them out, get them to like, sub 10, and then you're just like, attack you with this one thing, cast a pump spell, everything else pings you. And like it gives those aggressive decks reach, and it doesn't look like there's going to be any trouble getting spirits. So this could be a really, really nice like finisher card.
Yeah, I would like this more if the spirits were smaller. But the fact that they're 3/2s and now I can tap to deal 1 doesn't seem great.
Not all of them. I mean, there were some there was a 1/4 for 2. Like,
yeah.
A lot of their just normal creatures are just happen to be spirits. A lot of their rares were like 3/3s spirits that then do stuff. So, like I said, just more of an aggressive deck that just hinders their ability to stabilize.
Yeah. I don't think it's going to be as impactful as you do, but it is a relevant ability.
Oh, I mean, I still think it's like a 2/5.
Okay, sure. Yeah, I'm in the same boat as you then.
I would definitely like this maybe then like better than a 2/2 with lifelink, I think. Definitely.
Yeah, I agree with that.
You do need a spell, but when you do, I mean, you could probably do 3 extra damage or whatever.
Yeah.
Lorehold Command. Choose 2 for 5 mana. Create a spirit, 3/2. Creatures you control get +1/+0 and gain indestructible till end of turn. I like that one. Deals 3 damage to any target. That player gains 3 life, built-in lightning helix, sacrifice a permanent, and draw 2 cards. This seems strong.
Yeah, card's great.
Every single one of these individual things is pretty powerful.
Yeah.
Sacrifice a land, draw 2, feels good.
Yeah, there's really no combination of these that's probably not worth the 5 mana. So yeah, I like this card. Good if you're ahead with the indestructible and haste. Draw a couple extra cards. Good if you're behind. Kill something and make a body. And gain some life. You know, it's commands are often pretty good, and this certainly is.
Yeah, how high do we like this?
I have it as a 4.
Yeah, I think it's I'm almost hedging up slightly higher, just because like each one seems so strong. But combining with one other one, like that's a lot of value. +1/+0 and indestructible alone can be quite devastating. Now it's 5 mana, so like it's not quite worth that, but the indestructible seems nuts. So that's going to be way better than the like trumpet blast stuff. And then you know, lightning helix. This is any target, so it can go face as well. So you've got a finisher there. Yeah, I mean, at its worst, I think it's going to be a 4, and then like there could be just times where this gets, you know, 4 for 1 value.
Yeah, I mean, there are times when all you can really do is make a 3/2, sack something, and draw 2, which isn't great. And it's still fine, but I think you're right. I think it's just very flexible.
Yeah, I think the fact that it says non-land permanent for sacking makes me a little happier. Like once I get to 5 mana in Lorehold, I'm probably okay to sack a land. Feels like a net 0 thing to me. Not quite 0, but like very low downside.
Yeah.
Most of Lorehold seems like it's fine functioning on 5 or less mana.
Yeah.
Phoenix, thanks for the sub. Lorehold Excavation. At the beginning of your end step, mill a card. If a land was milled this way, you gain 1 life. Otherwise, it deals 1 damage to each opponent. Huh. Exile a creature card from your graveyard. Make a 3/2 for 5 mana.
It's a fine card, although it's, you know, it's not that impactful. It's a late game mana sink, which is nice.
It gives the, you know, aggressive Lorehold a little reach as well. Those pings can be quite devastating. But and then it's also late game, giving you, if you were to draw or play this slightly later, then it's just giving you infinite 3/2s, kind of.
Yeah, I like the late game mana sink. I don't love the mill part, although it does help fuel some of your other world stuff. It's nice.
Yeah, when you exile, it could trigger your other mechanics. I will say, don't cast this too early, because it'll put you on like a 10-turn clock to kill your opponent, which you probably don't want to do. I would wait until either you're already well ahead on life, or you have enough of a board to where a few extra pings will help you finish quicker. But the idea of, oh, they'll take damage or I'll gain life, so it's a net even, and I'll eventually kill them, is probably not a good way to consider this card, because you'll probably just mill yourself out.
Yeah.
That said, I like it.
Yeah. This card is really going to depend on how much stuff I do have in my Lorehold deck that cares about the graveyard, but if I'm more of the spirit focused side, it's not as important. But you're still making spirits, so I've got this at like a 2/5.
Okay, yeah, I think I'm a little bit higher on it, but not by much. I'm pretty happy to run this in any Lorehold deck. I just don't think you want to ever cast it very early. But late game, I'm happy to make, you just cast it, make a dude, next turn make a dude, next turn make a dude. I feel like that's pretty good value. I'm happy to have anytime. So I'm in the 3 range. Plague Mage. First strike for 3, 2/2. Whenever you cast or copy a spell, gets +1/+0 until end of turn. Okay, so this is one of the first pump Magecrafts I've been happy with. The white ones all sucked.
Yeah, don't love this card either, but at least it's first strike, which makes that better.
I mean, the other ones were like O1s that then couldn't do anything. A 2/2 first striker for 3 is like not that bad.
Yeah, it's fine.
And it makes combat really difficult into your open mana at any point.
Yeah, this card's fine. Yeah, I mean, I'm certainly playing this in any Lorehold deck. I have this again, another one that's like a 2/5 bear with upside.
Yeah, I think I'm slightly higher on it, but not by much. But those are also the decks I like.
Yeah, and I hate
slightly more aggressive bits.
Yeah, filled with combat tricks.
Yeah. Such a hater. Maelstrom Pulse, or Maelstrom Muse. Again, one of those weird mana costs. It's a 2/4 flyer for 4. Whenever it attacks, the next instant or sorcery you cast this turn costs X less, where X is the power of this card. As the ability resolves. Okay. I mean, it's a 2/4 flyer for 4. Yay.
Yeah.
And then makes my stuff cost 2 less, possibly, which seems nuts in this archetype.
Yep, it's exactly what Prismari wants.
All my 8 mana spells become 6 mana spells, and they're way less scary to cast.
Yep. Yeah, no, I think this is great. 4 mana 2/4 flyer is fine on its own. I think you're looking at like a 3 probably.
Yeah, I think I gave it a 3/5, just
3/5
because.
Yeah, I can see that.
It be giving that it's a 2/4 means you can even tack into like some that we saw, like a 3/3 flyer to attacks well into spirits. There aren't going to be a whole lot of flyers that kill it, even if they maybe bounce on it. We did see like a 2/3 flyer, so you're going to be able to trigger that X ability most of the time. So yeah, and it seems like it's exactly what Prismari wants. Turns all those 3 mana removal spells into 1 mana, which is a pretty big game changer.
Yeah, just remember when you're playing this card that it's the next spell, not so if it only affects one of your spells that turn if you're trying to spell.
Yes. Well, I was thinking, so yeah, attack, kill your guy for 1, play a creature where I wouldn't have been able to otherwise. That's what I was thinking.
Sure.
Or just cast my 8 mana spell for 6 and then have a good day.
Yep.
So I'm giving it a 3/5, half point higher than you, just because it looks like it's exactly what I want to be doing in that deck.
Yeah, I was on the higher end of 3, so we're in the same ballpark.
Great. Magma Opus. Deals 4 damage divided as you choose among any number of targets. Tap 2 target permanents. Create a 4/4 red elemental. Draw 2 cards. Huh. Does a lot of things.
What are all the different things blue and red can do? Let's just put them all on this card.
Right?
It needs to be 8 mana. We need to add more things.
Yeah.
It's a weird card, but that's a lot of stuff.
It is.
It's at least like a 4/1. Draw 2, kill something, and make a creature.
Yep.
leaving the tap 2 permanents out, which could be relevant as well.
And I will say that, like, this is the color archetype that wants to cast big spells, and they can help you get to the big spells much quicker with, like, cards we just saw. Now, the tap ability on this would be less relevant then, but it also has, like, the treasures and things. So of any school that can handle this, it's this one.
Yeah, and this is going to be at the top of the list for, if I'm limited on how many of those big spells I can play, this is the one I want to play.
Yes, this one is going to be the magnum opus. What do we like it score-wise?
It's hard for me to give an 8-drop too high of a score, but I've got it at like a 4.
Yeah, I agree. If I saw this in any other colors, I'd be like,
yeah,
3. But again, like, I feel like this is the place it can be cast. So, sure, I like 4.
Yeah.
Make your mark. 1 mana combat trick. Target creature gets +1/+0 until end of turn. When that creature dies, it turns it into a 3/2 spirit. Okay, so a trade up and make a body. That's not bad.
Yeah, card's fine at 1 mana.
Really aggressive decks are gonna love this card. Holy smokes.
Yeah, I do like the fact that you're happy if you trade up, but even if you just trade even and get a 3/2 out of it, that's fine as well.
Yeah, a 1 mana 3/2, right?
Yeah.
If you're gonna lose your creature anyway, you could just cast this and be happy with it.
Yeah, you can also cast it in response to a removal spell and just turn your guy into a 3/2.
Yeah, and a lot of the more aggressive decks in this colors, I mean, that's going to be at least a wash, maybe an upgrade.
Yep, triggers your Magecraft stuff for cheap.
Yep, there was some really aggressive Magecraft white cards, so I feel like that fits really well in this archetype.
Yeah. It's kind of low impact, but it's a 1 mana spell, so you expect that.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think it's fine. Not going hard after these cards, but I'll play it.
2?
It's like a 2. Yep.
Great. Your turn.
Manifestation Sage. This is the Quandrix quad hybrid card. 2/2 wizard. When it enters the battlefield, make a 0/0 fractal token with X +1/+1 counters on it, where X is the number of cards in your hand. So counting things again, different this time. It's your hand. 4 mana, so not and easy to cast in the Quandrix deck, so you should still have a decent number of cards.
Yeah, if you're casting this on 4, what is it likely to give you fractal token wise? Like, let's say you have a 2-drop and a 3-drop and a 4-drop, right? You're on the draw, play a land, 7 cards in hand. Turn 2, play a land, play a creature, 6 cards in hand, and then 5 cards in hand.
Yep, and then 4.
And then you cast this the next turn, and that's 4. So yeah, it's 6 power for 4.
Yeah. You're on the play right now. It's only 3, so your average is somewhere in that 3 to 4.
And that's without any of the draw spells.
Yep.
Which we have seen a fair amount both in the Quandrix duo color as well as like the blue-green alone.
Yep. Now, this is a card that is really bad later in the game.
Yeah, it depends on how many draw spells, right? Like, I feel like I've definitely had limited decks where I had so many draw spells I was at risk of milling myself often. And, there was like a Magecraft card that every time you cast a spell, draw a card. So potentially, depending on how strong the blue side of your draw is, it could potentially not be too bad. But yeah, it's definitely worse than it is on turn 4, I agree.
It's very variable card, right? High ceiling. It could be as high as a 2/2 as a 9/9/4, even higher theoretically with draw spells, or it could just be a 2/2/4.
Ooh, could we cast it for double green after we draw all of my graveyard end step?
Yes, if you have the triple black. Yes, if you're playing it black green, triple black and quad green.
It's possible.
Yep.
Don't rain on my parade. I like this card well enough.
Yeah, I think it's like a 3.
Yeah, I might be a little higher on it, but not by much. if it was this kind of ability in any other non-blue thing, I would be much lower on it, but I feel like more often you'll have a little bit of card draw to mitigate the downside of drawing this, you know, in the mid game.
Yeah.
All right, we have a big zombie crocodile with trample and lifelink, a 3/3 for 4 with 2 keywords. It's fine.
Yeah. It's not a lot to talk about. The lifelink's nice and Witherbloom.
Yeah, the Witherbloom does seem like it's going to be quite relevant, so, I mean, I'm definitely happy to see that keyword on a card. 3/3 for 4, not overly happy, but it's okay.
No, and trample on a 3/3 is kind of whatever. It's not that big, so I said this is a 2/5.
Yeah, I think I'm literally just a half a point higher than you on all of our multicolor cards as far as strength, it seems.
Yeah, maybe. I just
that just seems to be the trend. Like, I'm literally a half a point higher on the last like 10 cards.
Yeah.
I maybe I'm not like downgrading them for like the additional mana cost quite as much as you are.
Yeah, that's probably part of it. I'm surprised you're higher on this card. It doesn't do anything. It's just a 3/3 4. You have to have a lot of synergy before I'm really happy.
Two keywords is quite a lot of keywords. It helps with racing. Pump spells make this much better.
Yeah, I just don't value trample on a 3 at all.
Yeah, I definitely value the lifelink more in these 2 colors, but there are things that pump it. There's all sorts of stuff. So,
yep.
And again, I'm not ecstatic about it by any means. So the 2/2 is like, or the 2 rating for me is like, I am unhappy to play this. I hope I don't have to play this. Whereas like the 3 is like, yeah, this is a curve filling thing I am fine or happy to play. Not like something that I think is very good. So that's where I was, where it's like, oh yeah, this is gonna fit like the theme of my deck and not be a pain in the ass that I don't want to run.
Yep.
Spear, a 4 mana. Costs 2 less if you've gained life this turn. On theme, destroy target non-land permanent. Ooh, I like this a lot.
Yeah, card's great. Premium removal. I just have it as a 4.
Yeah, I agree. It's likely it'll cost 2 sometimes in this color, and then it says non-land permanent, which is pretty big. I'm like tempted to be almost a little bit higher just because it's better than some of our other 4 removals, but it's just hard to say to differentiate between good removal, because it's not a 5, it doesn't win you the game, but it is better than the other one.
Yep.
But they're both great, so it's hard. All right, we got a Drake. Flying, Death Touch, 1/1 for 2 mana. Fine. I would have thought this would have been in Witherbloom.
Yeah, agreed. Pretty weird. Set of keywords for blue-green.
Yeah.
Yeah, this card's just fine. A little worse because of all the 2/1 flying tokens in Silver Quill.
Yeah, but a lot of those cards are like, one of them was just creating 1. So it's still kind of a 1-for-1.
Yeah. It's just weird that you got a flying card that's basically just a block.
Yeah, it feels like early game, maybe you get in a little chip damage, and then late game it just trades up.
Yeah. I mean, I usually have like cheap Death Touchers at like 2/5.
Yeah. Yeah, like I said, it's so jarring to see the Death Touch in the Quandrix.
Yeah.
I think it's a smidge higher for me, a half a point, only because of the flying ability. Like, I like this a little bit better than the 1/1 snake for 1 green that we typically see.
Yeah.
There's also a 1-sided punch spell. There's an instant cast fight spell.
Well, I mean, fight spells are always going to 2-for-1 use this.
Not the 1-sided punch spell. That's what that was what I was mostly talking about.
Yeah, the punch will be fine, but the instant speed fight spell you're just going to.
Yeah, but we rate the 2/5 for the snake with the same idea, right? Like, we could potentially fight it with something larger, knowing it's going to be a 2-for-1. But I like the idea that this thing can fly too. So if you don't need to block, you can actually get in. A lot of times you're 1/1, you're like, well, I want to hold it back because even though I don't care to block the thing that they have when they attack me, because I want to save it for something potentially better or bigger, but then it can't really get in because then they trade for the thing that is optimal for them to trade in. So it just makes it a little less useless in that middle time where you don't have a good thing to block or you don't want to hold it up.
Yep.
Battle Seer, 3/4 for 5, haste and tap to scry 1. It's got like the starfish ability on a big body.
Yeah, I certainly rather have tap scry 1 on a cheaper body.
Yeah, not on my 3/4 that cost me 5 mana.
Yeah.
In a board stall game, sure. I would like this creature to attack them.
Yeah, I mean, these like school double keyworded cards. They feel all kind of the same. I've got them all at that 2/5 level so far.
Yeah. I mean, haste is pretty interesting. Like, all of they feel very disjointed. Like, the cards are kind of like nombos.
Yeah, they're just, it's a weird concept of a multicolor where they take one keyword from one color and one from the other.
And they're not in the guilds we typically see, which makes them not feel right.
Yep.
Which is very strange. But it's kind of expensive for a decent-sized body that wants to then tap to scry. Yeah, I think it's like a 2/5 or a 3. It's a bit expensive for me. We saw some other 3/4s that were 4 mana that did some stuff. Pings and things. Not as valuable as a scry, but I probably want this to attack anyway, so I think I probably like those better. Owlkin Shield Mage, flying with ward, pay 3 life. So our opponents can't kill this unless they, or target it, unless they pay 3 life, which I like the mana wards better. What do you think?
Agreed. The mana wards are better. Again, so got 3 of them in a row, but it's another one of these double keyworded school cards. I just have it as a 2/5. It's a little too expensive as a 3/3 flyer. Pay 3 life's not that relevant.
Agreed. I also think it's a 2/5. It is too expensive for what it does, and then I don't like the ward.
Yeah.
The ward feels irrelevant most of the time. One of the cutest cards in the set. Create 2 pests that don't drain a life, but gain you a life. Or 3 mana.
These school token lessons have all been good.
Yeah, the fact that it's a lesson makes me very happy. If it wasn't a lesson, you know, definitely has a much lower rating. Oh, did I mess up my... There it goes. Oops. Now, I will say, this is kind of one of the cards where, with enough synergy, it's borderline playable in your deck, if you don't have, like, the learn spells.
Agreed. It's funny, though, I actually like this card less than the other one. Because it's only good if you have that synergy. I
do. I agree. In the average run-of-the-mill deck, the other ones I think are better. I was saying that just that I would consider running this with the synergy. I think the other ones are like 1 mana too expensive just to be in the deck. This is just totally synergy based.
Yep.
If we have any of those 2 rares that want to sack a bunch of creatures, I would play this.
Yep.
Yeah, so 3?
Yeah, borderline 2/5, but I think it's still...
Practical Research, 5 mana, draw 4 cards, then discard 2 cards unless you discard an instant or sorcery. Bit expensive, but it's instant speed.
Yeah, you're at least up 1 card, and sometimes up 2 cards. With some selection.
Yeah.
You're in the deck that's going to have a lot of instants and sorceries.
And 5 mana is the base to trigger a lot of the Prismari cards.
Yep.
Right? I think it's 5 mana or greater spells.
Yep, we'll see that on the very next card, in fact. So yeah, it's a little expensive, but at instant speed, you know, We played 4 mana, draw 2s, so 5 mana, draw 4, discard 1 or 2 with some selection. I'm okay with that.
What do you think score-wise?
We get it like a 3.
Great. We are in agreement. Prismari Apprentice with Magecraft. Whenever you cast a spell, instant or sorcery, it can't be blocked this turn. If the spell is 5 or more, it gets a +1/+1 counter on it permanently. It's a 2/2 with some upside. Great. Even if you're not casting 5 mana spells, like it being a bear that is sometimes unblockable feels good.
Yeah, you're gonna get a lot of triggers in this deck. And you know, if you get one big spell triggered, it's great.
Yeah, and then your like little stuff makes it unblockable, which will put in some really good work.
Yeah.
What are you thinking?
I like this higher than the previous one of these apprentices we've seen, so I have this as a 3.
Yeah, I also put it at a 3. But I also agree. I like it a little bit more than the Lorehold Apprentice. But yeah, I put them both at 3, I think. Pretty sure. Yeah. Lorehold Apprentice. Oh no, I put it at a 2/5. So they were close.
Yep.
Prismari command. Choose 2. Deal 2 damage to any target. Target player draws 2 cards, then discards a card. Target player creates a treasure token. Destroy target artifact. This feels way fucking worse than the last one. Holy smokes.
It does, but it's also 2 mana cheaper.
Yeah.
Now it feels weird that the Prismari command isn't something that costs like 7.
True.
Maybe
they figure they have enough of them.
Yeah, and it's on the other side. It's the one that helps you get there by making treasure. Yeah, I mean, this is definitely less impactful than the Lorehold command. But I'm still happy for 3 mana. I think I'm pretty happy with all these effects. Like, if I ever pick destroy target artifact, I'm probably happy with it.
Yeah, it's just it's still good for its mana cost. Don't get me wrong. It just feels way less bomby.
Yeah, it is. Yeah, no question.
3/5.
Yep.
Deal 2 plus destroy an artifact feels okay. I mean, there's not that many artifacts in the format.
Yeah, I think you're most often going to be dealing 2 and ramping.
Or yeah, I think dealing 2 and draw cards.
Yeah.
Would probably be most likely for me.
Yeah, deal 2 and faithlessly.
All right, we have a Pledge Mage, Defender, 3/3 for 2. And then it can attack with Magecraft. Radiation Burn, thanks for the sub.
Yeah, we see these type of cards often, like defenders that can attack if X mechanic happens, like landfall.
Or pay 2, like the Mermaid.
Pay 2, yeah. I actually kind of like this card because this deck, the Prismari deck, feels like it's going to need stuff like this to stay alive long enough to cast its big spells.
To gum up the ground while it's fiddling with its tokens and expensive stuff.
Yeah, don't get me wrong, it's not an exciting card, but I think it's a card you're actually going to want in that deck.
Yeah, there was a 3 mana one in one of the guild's sets, right? It was a 4/3 for 3, I think.
Yeah.
That when you cast a spell, you could punch. And that thing was actually quite aggressive in the right deck. I would like play 1, play another, play a spell, attack them, play a spell, attack them for 2, and they were just like kind of dead.
Yeah, that makes sense.
So I agree, this is not out of the question. You probably want some draws, like cheaper draw spells to kind of generate it, but
yeah. I was saying that as much as I'm saying I like the card. I still think it's like a 2/5.
Yeah, no, I agree. I think so too. It looks worse than I think it is.
Yeah.
You're the initial like knee-jerk reaction,
and,
but I think
you'll always be able to cast it on 2 in that deck. The hybrid cost.
Yeah, that's true. We've got another Apprentice, 2 mana 2/2. Whenever you cast an instant or sorcery, look at the top 3 cards of your library. You may reveal a land card from among them and put that card into your hand. Put the rest on the bottom in any order. Great.
Yeah, it's the same effect that we got from
Wanderer.
Yeah, from enchantments in Theros Beyond Death. That card was great.
Yep, the Wanderer guy was pretty spicy.
Yep. Yeah, I think this card's a 3.
Agreed. It's pretty good upside for a bear. Quandrix command. Choose 2. Return target creature or planeswalker to its owner's hand. Counter target artifact or enchantment spell. Probably not as relevant. Put 2 +1/+1 counters on target creature. Target player shuffles their up to 3 target cards from their graveyard to their library.
This card is fine. You're probably mostly going to be bouncing something and putting 2 counters on at instant speed.
Yeah, I kind of like that. I agree. Those are the 2 most likely modes.
Yeah. It's, I think, way less flexible than some of the other, especially than Lore Hold, although, again, it's cheaper. Because you're rarely going to be countering Factor Enchantment.
You're most likely going to bounce, but you have to have a creature in order to get, like, the value out of it. You can't just, really use it as a bounce, and you don't have, like, the backup draw mechanic. Now, that said, I do think if you do have that situation where you bounce and then put 2 counters, I like it more than the Prismari, but it is more restrictive, I agree.
Yeah. I think because of that, I've got it basically the same 5.
Yeah, I like 3/5. Not as much of a bomb, but certainly some really good options there. Quandrix Cultivator. When it enters the battlefield, you may search your library for a basic forest or island and put it onto the battlefield and shuffle your library. Oh, nice. 4 mana, 3/4 ramper. I'm in.
Yep. Exactly what Quandrix wants. Stalls the ground while you ramps you to your bigger stuff.
Yep. What are you thinking rating wise?
I've got this at either a 3 or a 3/5, and I'm not sure which.
Yeah, I'm kind of on the fence about it as well. I put 3/5 initially just because I think it will enable all of your other cards that you want. And it thins your deck, which is never, like, even if you don't need the land, it's still like a thinning option.
Yeah.
Easy to cast.
Yeah, I think I like that, the higher.
Great. Magecraft 2/2 for 3. This is the same as the first striking one we saw. Whenever you cast an instant or sorcery, put a +1/+1 counter on it. Oh, great. You need 1 spell to make this where I want it to be, or it's like a body for its casting cost. In the deck, it's easy to cast. You'll never have any mana restrictions on it, which is nice. And then once you cast your second spell, you're getting huge discounts. So I think at this point it feels slightly better than the I'm now happy to fill my curve with this, which is the 3, but not quite the 3/5. It's kind of in between there. What do you think?
Yeah, I have it as a 3.
Yeah. Not really sure which way to lean on that. It depends on, I mean, the quality of it is going to depend on how many spells you have. So maybe it's that it's a 3 with like some upside.
Yeah, I agree.
Field Historian. Creatures get +1 or spirits get +1/+0. Whenever 1 or more leave your graveyard, create a 3/2 spirit token. Great. This does everything I want it to do. Wow. That's going to be really powerful with any of the things that can remove a card per turn kind of thing.
Yeah.
And it even says whenever 1 or more cards. It doesn't say creatures like the other one did.
Yeah. I mean, it's overpriced by a lot at 5 mana 2/4, but that's fine because you're getting 2 good effects that are exactly what Lore Hold wants to.
Yeah, now you do need other synergies to make this worth it, but it's also a Lord, so I mean it'll pay off, I think.
Yeah, I think this needs, this obviously needs some help to be good, but I think it is still good.
This one feels like more of a split card than the other ones.
Yeah, I agree.
If you have no way to get things out of your graveyard, this card is poop. It's like super poop.
Yeah.
Well, I guess there's so many spirits in these 2 colors that maybe it's just like a 2 because of the Lord ability. But your spirits don't fly, which is super poopy. So it's like a 3.5.
Yeah, I like that. It definitely has a very high upside.
If you have consistent ways to remove things out of your graveyard, then it feels much better. One of the things I would be worried about if I was running this card, though, like if you have a cheap creature that gets something when you exile a card out of your graveyard, like let's say remove something, tap, remove something, get a +1/+1 counter. Do you do that and then like potentially have minimal graveyard when cards like this come out? It's super tough, right?
Yeah, I mean, that's just all going to be dependent on the board state.
Yeah. There might be a time where you have big payoffs like this where you want to conserve your graveyard and not trigger your like weaker abilities right away.
Yeah, I mean, Magic at its core is a resource management game, and your graveyard can be a resource.
All right. I'll let you take this one.
Radiant Scroll Wielder, 2 red/white for a 2/4. Instant and sorcery spells you control have lifelink. Beginning of your upkeep, exile an instant or sorcery card at random from your graveyard, and you can cast it this turn. If you cast it, it gets exiled. Instant and sorcery spells you control have lifelink has come up a couple times and has never really had any impact. Occasionally you'll gain a couple life from a burn spell.
Yeah, I will say with the addition of the mystical archives, there's a fair amount of burn spells now.
Yeah.
Because there was like 3 just straight red ones. I'm not even including the Prismari ones. 3 decent red ones just in the main set, and then there was like Shock Bolt and another 3 damage one, I think, with a huge kicker or overlord or something.
Yeah, ours is Rage.
Lightning Helix doesn't count, and I don't know if have we seen any Lorehold burn spells? I don't think so yet.
No.
So yeah, it'll come in handy. And then the other option is to then cast them again. Seems pretty spicy. I think I would run this.
Yeah, I like the second part of the card. But feels like it should be in Prismari. But the graveyard synergies are lower, so kind of makes sense.
Yeah, because it will remove the cards from your graveyard, triggering your other abilities. And I also think that it synergizes well with like the cheaper burn spells, which is really good for Lorehold, I think.
Yeah. The card's good, but it needs some work. I've got it as like a 3.
Yeah, I think maybe a little bit higher on it as a 3/5, just because in the average, I'm happy to play this in the average deck that's got just 2 to 3 burn spells.
Yeah, I think I just don't love the fact that it's at range, but it would probably be too good if it wasn't.
Yeah, a lot of the burn spells, like I'd have to go back and see, but it seemed like more in this set than in previous set were able to go face, which is beneficial. And I'll have to see how many Lorehold instants and sorceries like make 3/2 spirits. Because if you're doing things that aren't, super time dependent, combat tricks would be worse. I agree.
That's the part that I'm concerned about. Red-white is probably going to be playing some combat tricks.
Yeah, but some of them are like +1/+0 draw a card. That wouldn't be terrible.
No.
All right.
It
Go ahead.
I say it definitely can have some upside.
Yeah. We'll have to see what kind of combat tricks you're running. Return target up to 1 target artifact card, up to 1 target artifact card, up to 1 target enchantment card, 1 instant, 1 sorcery, 1 planeswalker from your graveyard to your hand. So this is going to hit 1 creature.
So no creatures.
Oh, so this is going to hit nothing most of the time. Great.
To get you in a sorcery, basically. Yeah, I don't like this card at all. It's probably a 4-mana 1/1. And occasionally it'll be a 4-mana 2/1. That one of the cards you might not even really want.
Yep. If you have... We didn't see any lockdown enchantments that were worth running, right?
Nope, there was just the one really awful 1-mana wipe.
That's crazy. There wasn't even one in blue?
Nope.
Goodness. Yeah, I'm not playing this card. Poop. Go away. Next.
It's like a 1.5. If you have a planeswalker, then I'll play it.
I put it at a 1.5 as well. Yeah. I was thinking if I had a ton of removal, but the thing is most of your removal is like all typically instants. So like...
Yeah, you have to have both to be good.
The last time I saw an ability like that where you could get one of each back, I think it was a saga, maybe, or something. I don't really remember. But I felt like I had one lava coil in my deck, which was the sorcery. Everything else was instant. So most of the time it was just like a 1-for-1.
Yeah.
Vigilance and Menace 4/4 for 5. I like this.
Yeah, this is one of the better. Might be the best one of these, in my opinion, of these double keyworded, otherwise vanilla creatures. I think I've still got it at a 2/5 though.
Yeah,
it could be. This one could be close.
yeah, it's kind of close. I agree. I like the Vigilance Menace enough, I think, to where I'll bump it up to a 3. I might just value keywords a little higher than you. 6 mana, interesting mana cost. Flying 4/2. When it enters the battlefield, return target spirit, instant, or sorcery from your graveyard to your hand. Alright. I like this. Dies to everything, but gets its value back, and maybe just domes them for 5 for a bajillion, but it is 6 mana. Kind of a lot.
Yeah, that is really expensive.
If you're getting back a decent spell, I think it's worth it. If you are getting back a combat trick, I'm pretty unhappy.
Yeah, agreed. Yeah, I think the card is fine. I hate that it's just going to trade with a 2/1 token.
Well, it flies, so... Oh, yeah, you're talking about the Inkling.
Inklings.
Yeah, I mean, that's only one archetype. We're not going to see that every time. I would be also upset if it dies to Shock, which is in the format.
Agreed.
Bolt. And then there's three damage spells? 2 in straight red and 1 in red in the archive cards as well. In addition to the Bolt. There's like the kicker one or whatever.
Yeah.
Dies to anything. Score-wise, value of it's going to go up based on the value of your spells, but probably 2/5?
Yeah, I've got it as a 2/5.
Bit expensive. It is a spirit that flies, so if you have like spirit lords and stuff, that could be slightly better, but... Rip Apart. Choose 1. Rip Apart deals 3 damage to target creature or planeswalker. Hey, it also dies to this! Destroy target artifact or enchantment. So this is just 3 damage for 2. It's a slightly worse lightning helix, which is also in the format.
Yeah, but it has flexibility.
Yes. I think the artifact enchantment will be pretty minimal in this format, so I'd rather just have the gain life if I got to choose.
I would too. I mean, lightning helix is great, but that being said, I do like when I'm able to get that effect into my main deck for free.
Agreed.
And 2 mana to deal 3 is still perfectly fine.
Yeah, it's still a 3/5.
Agreed.
Yeah. Choose 1, 3 damage. What did we rate the red 3 damage? Because if this was an instant, I think I would just put it at a 4.
Agreed. Yeah.
Because the other one was 3 mana, 3 damage. I think we might have rated it higher or as is, but it was instant and it cost more.
It's instant, cost more, and easier to cast.
Yeah. All right. 6 mana, exile target creature, exile up to 1 instant or sorcery card from a graveyard. With Learn. Okay.
Yeah, I like this card a lot. It's pricey. It's 6 mana, but it's unconditional, and maybe the exile something out of the graveyard matters, and you get your card back.
Yeah, you could run this in the Lorehill deck, which makes you maybe want to exile things out of your own as well, because it's
true
individual pips. So there's some Lorehold synergy there, and you get your a lesson with it. Yeah. So you're basically paying the extra couple mana to get a lesson, which may or may not be worth it based on your lessons. Like we had 4 mana exile black spells, which we would rather have than this if we don't have lessons. But I'm happy to run one of these if I do at the top end.
Yeah, this is a little lower than those because I think the mana efficiency is more relevant, but and you can only play so many 6-drops outside of Prismari or Quandrix. But I'm still playing this card in certainly every Silver Quill deck, and probably in Witherbloom and Lorehold as well.
Oh my god, we still have so far to go. 3/5.
Yep.
Moving on. Rutha, pay 2. It's a 1/4 for 3, pay 2. Return it to its owner's hand. Copy instant or sorcery. You may choose new target. So 2 mana copy every time you bring it back to your hand, which seems great for that deck.
Yeah, you like it in Prismari because you're going to be copying, a 7-drop for 2, hopefully, or a 5-drop at least for 2. Now that of course means you have to have 7 or 9, which you may only get to do once because you're using treasure tokens to fuel it.
Yeah.
But I think the card's fine. 3 mana 1/4 is not great.
That or there's some of the like the creature that reduces the cost of spells could make this far more relevant as well. Like the 2/4 bird or whatever. If your 6-drop is now 4 and you're casting this on turn 6, that's pretty spicy.
Yeah, no, I agree with that. 3 mana 1/4 is underwhelming, but I think you're happy with the high toughness because you're going to want to be clogging up the ground early.
Great, 3.
Prismari. Yeah, that's a 3.
All right, Rushed Rebirth, 2 mana. Choose target creature. When that creature dies this turn, search your library for a creature card with a lesser mana value. Put it into the battlefield, then shuffle. Not in love with it?
No, I mean, your upside is you have like a 6-drop out and you use this to...
In response to removal to get a 5-drop.
To get a 5-drop.
This isn't something you really want to be casting on your own stuff, but I would want to have several big things before considering this, and they would have to be like incremental, like 2 6s, 2 5s kind of thing. Yeah.
Yeah, I don't really like this card.
2?
Yep.
Great. We are in agreement. Moving along. We have a 3 mana 2/2 flyer. Whenever target creature you control with flying dies, put a +1/+1 counter on target creature you control. On any creature, that's pretty spicy.
Yeah, and it's not non-token creature, so your Inkling tokens dying triggers this.
Great. I love this card.
Yeah, we're happy with a 3 mana 2/2 flyer vanilla. We'll play that.
Yeah, agreed.
Now, easier to cast usually, but no, I think this card is great.
3/5?
3/5, yep.
In agreement. Giant Dragon. Tiny text.
Shadrix Silverquill, 3 white black for a 2/5 Elder Dragon Legend. Flying and double strike. At the beginning of combat on your turn, you may choose 2, and each mode must target a different player. Target player creates a 2/1 white and black Inkling token with flying. Target player draws a card and loses a life. Target player puts a +1/+1 counter on each creature you... I really don't like this card.
I love it in 2HG.
Yes. Yes.
Seems nuts.
I mean, you don't have to choose something, so you can just play this as a 5 mana 2/5 flying double strike, which is fine. But every time you choose something that you want, you have to give them something. Yes, sometimes maybe they have no creatures or only 1 creature, so giving them a counter isn't a big deal. But you're probably ahead at that point anyway.
Yeah.
This is definitely a card made for, Commander and multiplayer formats.
Agreed. It's definitely a little interesting. It's like a nice little mechanic for the someone to give the weakest player at the table something. That said, like, there might be times where I'm okay to give them something depending on what it is.
Yeah, the fact that you don't have to choose 2 every turn means you can try to time this to your advantage. And
this is the removal format, so if I'm playing against like maybe a taller deck, I'm like, yeah, put a +1/+1 counter something, I'm gonna make an Inkling. Next turn, put a +1/+1 counter something, I'm gonna make an Inkling and blow up your guy. So like there is ways where you can like mitigate that effect, depending.
Yeah, But for my mythic dragons, I don't want to have to mitigate their effects.
I agree. It's still a flying 2/5 double striker for 5,
Yeah,
which is
fine.
great.
Yeah, it's fine, just underwhelming for the founder of one of them.
So I actually slightly disagree in that I am glad that my mythic dragons don't just snap win the game and do crazy amazing things.
Oh, sure.
I actually kind of like this mechanic, and I wish that there were more grindy things like this in Limited. But that's what I like about Limited, so.
Yeah.
Or
I have it at lower than that. I have it as a 5.
You have it at what?
A 3/5.
3/5?
Yeah.
Yeah, double striking flyer feels good though. 5
It's
mana.
good.
Oh, isn't this the same color that you have the black removal spell, the black board clear that saves your dragon? Let's go.
Yes, if you get double mythic, sure.
You're such a party pooper. 2 mana 2/2 Magecraft. I'm rating it as a 4, by the way. 2 mana 2/2. Whenever you cast another sorcery, gets +1/+0 till end of turn. The other white ones sucked because they were just like 0/1s and stuff. This one at least is a bear and then just does the thing sometimes, which makes it a bit better. But I still think the upside is not permanent enough for me to be excited about it.
Yeah, again, you're fine playing it because it's a bear, but that's about it.
If it had menace or something, so that way like the pump actually maybe meant I could get it in, that'd be great. Yeah. But
yeah,
it probably still trades with roughly the same thing. 2?
2.
It's close. Choose 2 for the Silver Quill command. Target creature gets +3/+3 and gains flying until end of turn. That could kill someone. Return target creature with converted mana cost 2 or less from the graveyard to the battlefield. Target player draws a card and loses a life. Target player sacrifices a creature. I love all of these. This is my favorite command.
The only thing I don't like about this card is that it's a sorcery. Or the rest are instants.
That is true. I mean, sorceries are definitely worse than instants, but I like all of the abilities.
Yeah, this is a good card. I've never been a huge fan of bring something back with CMC 2 or less because that's so restrictive and you're usually not getting anything good. But that's only half the spell when you choose it, so it's a good card.
Yeah.
Yeah, I still think this is worse than the Lorehold command for me, but close. I've got it at a 4.
This one feels more consistent than the Lorehold card. Like the +1/+0 and indestructible, like it's not very good if you don't have a decently sized board. This feels like it's just going to be a consistent thing versus maybe not as big of a blowout, not as high of a ceiling.
Yeah, I think what I like about Lorehold is it's more likely to kill the thing you want to kill than this is. Because they can just, sacrifice a creature in a token format's not powerful.
Yeah.
But we're semantics here. It's a very good card.
Silver Quill Pledge Mage. I gave that one a 4, by the way, guys. Magecraft, it's a 3/1. Instants or sorceries. It gains your choice of flying, lifelink until end of turn. Flying or lifelink. Right?
Yeah.
It's what I would expect to, 3 mana 3/1s are not uncommon. Giving it flying when you cast can definitely get in some beats. The lifelink lets you race on the ground if need be. Card's fine.
Yeah, you can ambush a flying attacker with this on your turn. Yeah, fine, but not exciting. Like 2/5.
Yeah, 2/5. I agree. Silver.
Did you say these are not uncommon because that was a common?
No, I didn't. I'm too tired to think of things like that. Silver Quill Silencer. When it enters the battlefield, choose a non-land card name. When an opponent casts a spell with the chosen name, they lose 3 life and you draw a card. More constructed, but a 3/2 for 2 mana. And I will just name the most common removal spell in their colors.
Yeah, this is a 2 mana 3/2.
Which
basically.
Yeah.
Which is fine. Which is good, which is better than fine. Yeah, it's a 2/5.
Agreed.
Much better in best of 3 after you've seen their deck.
Agreed.
Games 2 and 3.
3 mana, 2/2 flyer, instant or sorcery spells you cast with 5 mana or less cost 1 less. Yes! Give it to me, little bird.
3 mana, 2/2 flying with upside. So, right on theme. Sign me up.
3?
Yep.
Great. Oh my god. How are we only to the S's? There's V's and W's.
There's all of Witherbloom left.
All right, lesson. Create a 3/2 red spirit token. So this is the kind of thing I was talking about, how we're like, if I'm recasting random spells, right? If it's like removals and this, I'm pretty happy. Yeah, it seems fine.
Yeah, all of these school token lessons are great. 3.
Agreed. Agreed. Spiteful Squad. Death Touch 0/0. It enters the battlefield with 2 counters on it. When it dies, put its counters on target creature you control. The art just screams Silver Quill. They did a great job.
Yeah, agreed.
It looks like
it's the Silver Quill version of Mean Girls.
Yeah. And that's what I would expect to see from like a drama school or something.
Yeah.
Edgy, yes, said someone. It's a bit expensive for a 2/2 Death Toucher. I mean, its counters come back, but it's just a common, so it's fine. But it's a bit expensive.
I'll play this card, but I just feel like there's going to be more stuff to do at 4. That's just better. I just got this as a 2.
I'm going to give it a 2/5. The 4-drop slot doesn't seem overly crowded, and this is the flying format, and so the counters, you know, potentially go on a flyer, and it's the format that has all the synergies with counters. So this might get triggers, you know, getting counters on things that have counters, and then those go onto a flyer. So it feels like it's in its home. So I'm gonna give it a little bit of a point boost there. Square Up. Target creature has the base power of 4 until end of turn at instant speed. All right, so you just like combat trick them.
Yeah, I mean, I think what you're doing is you're casting this on one of your Fractal tokens that's a 6/6, and now it's a 10/10 because it's an 0/0 base power and toughness.
Yeah, which could potentially kill them. But also I've used this ability a bunch when it's like, you know, they attack their 4/4 into my 3/3 or whatever, and I just like pump it and eat their guy. So it's just kind of a slightly removal spell in some ways.
Yeah, it's just it's a combat trick.
It also like bricks the 3 different 3 damage burn spells in the format.
Yep.
Which I like. 2/5?
Yeah, I mean, it's unsurprisingly, I have it at 2. It's a combat trick, so I'm a little lower than you.
Whenever 1 or more cards leave the graveyard, scry 1. Great. 3/3 for 3 that does a thing that fits my synergies. I'm in.
Yep.
3.
It's also a spirit. 3.
Great. We are in agreement. Tiny text. Take it away.
Tanazir Quandrix, 3 green blue for a 4/4 Elder Dragon Legend. Flying Trample. When it enters the battlefield, double the number of +1/+1 counters on target creature you control. Whenever it attacks, you may have the base power and toughness of other creatures you control become equal to Tanazir Quandrix's power and toughness until end of turn.
Holy shit, it makes all your fractals into 4/4s with counters on them and doubles. Yep. Oh, that's spicy.
Yep. And maybe more if this is bigger. If this is a 6/6.
Holy schmoly.
Yeah. I mean, 5 mana, 4/4 flying trample that adds, 2 or 3 counters when it enters the battlefield. I'm sold already. And then pumping everything to 4/4. Yeah, sign me up.
Sign you off or sign you up?
Sign me up. Sign me up.
5?
Yep. I mean, this is a 5.
Great. Yeah, that does sound better than the Silver Quill Dragon. Whenever you cast an instant or sorcery spell this turn, copy that spell. You may choose new targets for 2 mana. Okay, we've seen this a bunch, which it's normally I would say it's unplayable, but in this particular format with Prismari, it's a little bit more playable, but I'm still not super excited about it.
No. I'm fine with this ability when it comes on a creature, like with the legendary creature, but
yeah. And another reason too that like maybe it gets a slight bit of edge. Now I'm saying it's normally a 1. I'm gonna put it at a 2, but that's also because of Magecraft.
Yep.
Because if you have like a bolt and you're now getting 3 Magecraft triggers, that feels pretty spicy.
Yep.
And there is like bolt and shock in the format. And then also, if you're in the Prismari deck and you're just doubling a 6 mana spell because you just have the deck, it feels great. Tend the Pests as an additional cast to cost. To cast this spell, sacrifice a creature, create X 1/1 pests. Where X is the power of sacrificed creature. Power of the sacrificed creature. It's instant speed, so it's good in response to removal. This guy looks like a pedophile to these little pests, I agree.
Yes, he does.
Even
this flavor text, I've got a special treat for you today.
Ew. Yeah, I love that it's in response to removal. If it was sorcery speed, I would not be very happy with this, but this feels sort of like the like a Village Rites, but better.
That's interesting, because I was thinking it's a Village Rites, but worse.
Well, so the pests give you... So I'm assuming if they're removing it, it's something that's already, like, moderately sized. I guess it could be one of the lords or something, but I'm guessing it's going to be a decent-sized target, 3 power or greater.
Yeah.
And then the pests synergize so well with the rest of the deck and does everything. There's multiple Witherbloom uncommons or multicolor cards that do the drain when the pests die. There's a ton of sacrifice giant monsters that then attack with all of these little things. So I think it's better. You're guaranteed to get that synergy value, whereas like 2 random cards is like, okay, you get like a mediocre creature and a land for it, which is still good if it's in response to a removal spell, but this feels like a higher consistency of value for me.
Yeah, see, I think that's funny. We're really different on this card. I think this is wildly inconsistent, because there are plenty of times where these 1/1 tokens will do nothing. You might have to be sacrificing your synergy cards.
Yeah, I mean, if your deck is light on synergy and you don't have a reason to want the pest tokens, I agree that I'd rather have the Village Rites. It just feels like a far more synergistic set than we've seen in a while. So I tend to just give it a little bit more benefit of the doubt.
Yeah, I will say the one thing that is good with this card is that we did see a few Witherbloom cards that are cheap and enormous power.
There's also like the 4/2 alligator that then comes back whenever you gain a life. Like, it just feels like there's a lot of synergy. Right, doing this on the alligator seems nuts.
Yeah. I mean, Village Ricing the alligator also seems nuts. Anyway, it's a fine card. You're always
but you can't. You need to gain life to get the alligator right back, right?
Yeah, I think so.
So
it's been a while since we did that.
So this triggers that. Like, you can't get your alligator back with Village Rites.
Yep.
That said, I mean, I still think it's like a 2/5. I'm like happy to run it if there's synergy. If there isn't, probably not running it.
Yeah, I agree with that.
Definitely want to cast it in response to removal. I don't really want to be sacking my big creature for it, so.
Yeah.
You feel like Witherbloom will live or die based on its synergy. I agree. Yeah. Honestly, it feels like this set is going to kind of be like that. If your deck doesn't have it, you're not going to perform particularly well.
Yeah, that kind of scares me about this set, because everybody's fighting over 5 archetypes instead of 10.
Yes. I agree. Thrilling Discovery. You gain 2 life. You may discard 2 cards. If you do, draw 3 cards.
Card's fine. You're spending 2 mana for card neutrality, but you get to get rid of your 2 worst card.
Yeah, you pitch 2 lands late game, which, I mean, I kind of would rather just have a thrill most of the time, just because it's less restrictive. Pitch a land, you know what I mean?
I agree with that. Because you have to have the 2 cards.
Yeah, and then like even if you top deck the thrill, right, you have to wait to draw a land versus having to wait 2 draws before you can do anything.
Yep, no, I agree with that. I would rather have that as well.
And the life gain isn't as relevant in this archetype as it is in the Witherbloom, so that's pretty much a poopy bonus, but a bonus nonetheless. I don't like this card very much.
No, the best thing about this card is that there's an elephant on a zip line.
That is the best, I agree. 2?
It's not unplayable though, so it's 2.
Great. We are in agreement. Exile target monocolored permanent. This is way worse than it typically should be.
Yeah, it is.
There's like 5 monocolored permanents in the entire format.
Yeah, I think I still play this card, but I don't take it highly, and it's certainly not premium level.
Yeah, I agree. It's going to hit something, but it's not going to hit the best of things. For example, guys, there is as many multicolor cards in the format as there is in 3 colors combined, 3 individual monocolors combined. So most decks are going to be, you know, less than half monocolored things, most likely.
Yeah. But you know, we play cheap removal spells that only target half of opponents' things all the time. So
yes, I just meant it's for rare, and also I was comparing it to how good this would be in a typical format.
Agreed.
Where if you're just sitting down to play this for the first time and you're thinking, "Oh, this is great! I'm gonna be able to kill like most things," it's not as good in this particular format.
Yeah.
With
one nice thing is that it can hit almost all of the modal cards.
That's true. Yeah. So it hits mythics.
Yeah, those are rares and mythics, but they're powerful.
But not the big dragony mythics.
No.
Like this one that has tiny text.
Velomachus Lorehold, 5 red, white for a 5/5 Elder Dragon Legend with flying, vigilance, and haste. Whenever it attacks, you'll get the top 7 cards of your library. You may cast an instant or sorcery with mana value less than or equal to Lorehold's power from among them without paying its mana. Put the rest on the bottom.
I stopped listening halfway through, sorry.
Yeah, I love this card.
Look at the top 7 cards of your library. You may cast an instant or sorcery spell equal or lesser value than its power from among them without paying its mana cost. Put the rest in the bottom. Okay, great.
And it has haste.
Vigilance, and haste. That's a lot of stats. It is super expensive for Lorehold, though.
It is, and that's the one downside is that Lorehold doesn't want 7. But if this is the only thing you have at the top of your curve, please go for it. And then attack for play it, attack, and unless they have an instant speed removal spell to stop you from attacking, you're gonna get you have a pretty good chance of hitting a free spell. By the time you cast this, you've got 7 lands on play, probably on turn 8 or 9. You're looking at like a third of your remaining.
Yeah, if it survives, you're just going to cast every single spell in your deck.
Yeah.
Which is just basically free draws. Hopefully it's removal spells. Could be like a pump spell or something, which will just kill them. It's pretty nice.
Yeah. I think this is a 5 primarily because it has haste. If it didn't have haste and it had to survive a full turn cycle before you got any value out of it, it would be much worse.
I agree with that. Yeah, that makes sense. So you're most likely getting a spell, albeit a little random. At least that is some lasting effect. Also, even if you ignore the rest of that text, it is a 5/5 haster, which could just kill them, even if they have the answer on their turn if they untap, right? So like that to me is more of a lasting effect than the 5/5s that do something or that don't do something immediately and then let them answer it on their turn when they untap.
Yeah, and there's actually a really good point in chat that you can play this in Prismari as well, because of all the treasure tokens they make. And they've got the spells that you want.
And then you bump up the spells. Yeah, so you just splash this for white and then make someone cry with your 8 mana spells.
Yeah, you either find one of the red-white lands or just cast it off treasure tokens.
All right, 3/3 for 3, Vigilance and Trample. When it deals combat damage to a player, you may return target creature card with converted mana cost X or less from your graveyard, where X is the amount of damage. That makes my combat tricks way better.
Yeah. Especially with trample.
Yeah, that's what I meant. Only with trample. If it didn't have trample, then the damage would not likely go through.
Yeah, I'm thinking even if it's unblocked, you can get a bigger thing back.
Yeah, most of the time,
But, yeah.
even if I like if I would just put a pest under this every single time, just so they couldn't get a three CMC thing back. I like this card a fair amount.
Yeah, I mean 3/3 Vigilance Trample for 3 already is great.
Yeah.
Like you can't really chump this. Red White's probably Lorehold's probably going to have some 2s to get back. So if they try to chump with pests,
there was also
back.
Cheap like +2/+2 white combat tricks. There was +2/+0 in First Strike. Yeah, I think that you'll have a lot of things that help this as well get through, and cheap removal, a crap ton of it that just gets it in.
Yep, they block, you kill the blocker, and it gets in for 3, and you can bring something back.
What do you like this at?
I think this card's a 4. I think it's really good.
Yeah, I agree. I think it's 4. If it had haste, it'd be a 4 or 5.
Yeah.
But it's pretty easy to kill and has to survive a turn before it does any work.
Yeah, and there are just board states where your opponent's sitting on 3/4s, can't do anything with it. But if you're playing this on curve, it's just pretty ridiculous.
Yeah, you're on the play, you play a 2-drop, and then trade it, and then play this, and then the next time they can't really if you're on the play, it's gonna be hard for them to battle a 3/3 on 3 unless they exactly have the same thing, which is kind of rare actually. But most likely they'll have a 2/3 or something, so you can get in or make their life very difficult. They'll want to chump their 2/3 to prevent you from getting your 2/2 back or whatever. Yeah, great. 4 Witherbloom Apprentice. We're to the W's. The 2/2 bear. Whenever you cast a spell, drain a life. Great. This one's great. I like this one a bunch.
Yeah, I like this card a lot. Triggers all the rest of your stuff in Witherbloom.
3/5.
Yep.
This is the better of these thingies, I think.
Yeah, I think you're right.
Witherbloom command. Choose 2. Mill 3 cards. Target player mills 3 cards. Then you return a land card from your graveyard to your hand. Destroy target non-creature, non-land permanent with value 2 or less. Target creature gets -3/-1. And target opponent loses 2, you gain 2. All right, well, it's dirt cheap. Let's start there. But none of the things are quite as impactful as our other ones, even at 3 mana. But they're all decent. I don't really like the first one. I don't really like the second one. Yeah, I like the second 2 the most.
Yeah, I don't really like this card at all, actually.
Yeah, for 2 mana, it's good.
For 2 mana, it does stuff, but mill 3 cards, return a land, maybe. Odds are there isn't a non-creature, non-land permanent at 2 or less to even hit.
I agree.
Unless it's a treasure token.
Honestly, the first 2 modes seem pretty blank to me.
Yeah, -3/-1 is fine.
Oh, it's sorcery speed for -3/-1. Oh, poop! I actually thought it was instant.
And lose 2 life and gain 2 life. Yeah, if you have enough synergy, it's fine. All of these are really underwhelming for me. I mean, it's certainly a playable card because 2 of them together in the right scenario could get some value. But
yeah, I thought it was an instant.
I've got this at a 2/5.
Yeah, it's a 2/5 or a 3.
Yeah.
I had it at a 3, but now that it's a sorcery speed, that the best one, the -3/-1, is now freaking far less you can't use it as a combat trick to prevent a trade. You can't do. Yep. I'm gonna drop it. I had it at a 3, but I thought it was an instant.
Okay.
Yep. I'm way less happy, but I still think the bottom 2 are fine for 2 mana.
Yep.
I'm happy to run it, but I'm not excited. 5/5 for 5. Whenever you cast an instant or sorcery spell, you may gain 1 life, which triggers all of your things. Great. 5/5 for 5. That's easy to cast. I'm on board for this.
Yeah.
Normally I would say it's like a 2/5, like the elf. Maybe like a 3. The fact that it's got that life gain synergy, which potentially could cause draining and all sorts of other things, enable you to hit them with just the 2-drop black flyer, right? A2 life if it gains flying. If you're gaining some fringe life, it makes everything better in this deck.
Yeah, I've got it as a 3.
I also have it at a 3. All right, we're almost done. Last card.
Yep. Last card.
2 mana, 1/2. Whenever you put a land card from your hand onto the battlefield, or wait, you may put a land card from your hand onto the battlefield tapped for 1 mana. Lets you ramp. Draw a card. If you control 8 or more lands, draw 2 cards instead. Oh, hello. Hello, that 4 mana ability seems pretty spicy.
Yeah, this card is everything Quandrix wants to do. Ramps you. You
Yes.
have to have the land, but
yeah, but you ramp the 1 turn, and then you play like a big creature, and then you draw a card. Yeah, it seems great. You just kind of alternate.
Yeah, it's good early. It's got a mana sink late. Body's underwhelming, but you're playing this for the abilities, not the stats.
Agreed. What do you think in score-wise?
I think it's a 3-5.
So I think the average deck is probably a 3, but like if you have the Quandrix deck that gets to 8 moderately reasonably, if you have card draw that helps you make sure you get 8 lands to play, then it's a 3-5.
Yeah,
I think
fair.
With the synergy, like I said, I've been giving the synergy the benefit of the doubt, unlike I did for cycling. I super underrated. I'm gonna hedge this, I think, at a 3-5.
Yep.
Oh my god, guys, we're done. If you're watching just this video and you're wondering where are the modal cards, we did those with the other last video that came out, the colorless artifact and modals, just because it was a smaller section and I didn't want this to be 5 hours. So check that video out if you didn't see it. Holy crap, what do you think of the colors, Yanks? What do you think of our multis?
They're powerful. Like I said a little bit ago, I'm a little concerned as to how synergistic this set seems to be with only 5 viable archetypes. I mean, there are probably some 3-color archetypes viable too, but yeah, I could see a lot of failed synergy decks in the format, but there's a lot of power here.
I agree, but isn't there normally 5?
Any of these guild type sets are 5, but most sets have 10.
Yeah, so like I know the guilds, right? They came out in 5 and 5, typically, don't they?
Yeah, and I think that's a concern every time with those sets.
Okay. So yeah, I thought you were comparing this one to that one, but you're comparing this one to other sets that aren't guild or school based.
Yeah, I mean, I think that's why you see so many synergy cards, because there need to be such a large quantity of them to make sure any deck.
No, that certainly makes sense. I mean, I didn't feel that too much with the guilds. I mean, I felt like the synergy was present in all of my decks, but not necessarily super strong, which I think is fine. I don't think any deck, it should average itself out, if that makes sense. You're saying you're worried that there's only 5 guilds, so everybody will be pulling from like the same thing. So that'll just lower the power level overall, which could be good for some guilds and worse for others. It might make like maybe Prismari weaker because you don't have as many of the enablers, but I think it should average itself out. I hope.
Yeah, it's particularly Prismari and Witherbloom scare me that they're going to be really bad if you don't get enough synergy. I think they have very high upsides. Like, I think Lorehold and Silverquill, you can just be an aggressive down deck.
Yes. I don't think I agree with Prismari. I don't think I'm as worried about Witherbloom. I feel like I've seen a crap ton, and it doesn't need a ton of things to trigger each other. Like, there's some payoffs, and then there's plenty of things that do the job, like the 0/4 wall and the sack creatures make pests, the vanilla 3/2. It just feels like there was enough there to me to where like I'm not going to be fighting people for 3/2 like things that gain 2 life.
Yeah, I don't think you're going to be fighting for that. I think you're going to be fighting on the payoffs.
Possibly, yeah.
Like that seems like the deck that forces you to play the most cards that are subpar on their own.
I agree with that. But also, you know, there's 2 land cycles of splashing options.
Yep,
so
that helps.
I think we are going to see a little bit more cross blending of our schools, a bit more than we're giving credit for as well. Especially in the green Quandrix Witherbloom combination, just because there is, you know, all of that go get a land, put it into battlefield tapped kind of stuff.
Yeah, no, I agree with that. I do think you will see some viable.
All right, awesome. This video was 3 times longer than any of our other videos. I hope you guys enjoyed it. If you didn't see the other single color ones, check those videos out. They're all posted and live for you now. Thanks again for watching, and we'll see you in the next set review. Bye, guys. I'd like to give a special thank you to those of you who have signed up for our Patreon. I couldn't make this content without you. Also to Cool Stuff Inc. and KMC Sleeves for supporting the channel as well. Definitely check them out and use our discount codes to support the channel.